Good evening. I'm Keith Merrill, the high school principal, and welcome to the class of 2021 Top 30 Academic Excellence Celebration. Tonight, we honor the academic achievements of these remarkable, dedicated, and outstanding young men and women, and many of the people who have had a positive impact on who they are today. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Rich Nowak, President of the Brunswick Board of Education.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the members of the Brunswick Board of Education and all the teachers and administrators at Brunswick High, it is my privilege to welcome you all here today, to celebrate the top 30 students in the graduating class of 2021. You know, we go to many awards programs as board members, but this is absolutely our favorite, and it's probably because of the people that are here. I'd like to congratulate a few people or a number of groups in the audience. My first congratulations goes out to the parents. Your son or daughter is finally done at BHS, and what a job they've done. I can't imagine how proud you are and what you must be feeling right now. After all those years of pushing and pulling and worrying, it's finally over. You can take a deep breath and relax. For a little while anyway, because as parents, we all know it's never really over. And congratulations to our top 30 students. You are the best of the best. What an accomplishment after all those years of research papers, labs, advanced placement and cramming for exams. You're finally done at BHS. And what a job you all have done. Congratulations on your great accomplishment. You are really something special. And finally, to our teachers, what a year. Not your normal year with just complaining about evaluations and state testing, but you had to adjust to virtual, in-person, hybrid education, talking to computers, and everything else. Truly a different year. But you made the best of it, and you got the best reward a teacher could possibly get. Someone has said to you that you made a difference in their lives. Quite an accomplishment, and congratulations. So welcome to all again, and now let's all sit back and enjoy the program. Thank you very much.
We will be honoring the top 30 students in the class of 2021, the teachers and the staff that they have chosen as influential in their educational career in Brunswick. With the pandemic and the challenges of the past 2 years, the top 30 students didn't give up on their dreams and goals. They continue to strive for excellence. Sitting in this room, up in the stands of the top 30, we have a national AP scholar. We have a multiple state champion. We have a student who volunteers with the Special Olympics. We have numerous BHS, Brunswick High School, athletic records across many different sports that are held by students in this room. We have numerous AP scholars with distinction and honors. We have numerous students who participated and earned a superior rating in one of their music performances with OMEA. And in our presence, we also have an Eagle Scout. This is just the tip of the iceberg and doesn't begin to identify their many accomplishments and the numerous scholarships that they have received. Reading through their speeches, it has reinforced to me that the relationships and personal connections with the top 30 students is what makes this event truly special. Tonight, you're going to meet the future leaders, scientists, engineers, teachers, and artists. They are heading off to the fall to outstanding institutions of learning such as The Ohio State University, which you will hear many times tonight, Miami of Ohio, Purdue, Georgetown, Bowling Green, Northwestern University, and many, many more. I asked the top 30 students a few weeks ago, to choose an individual from elementary, middle, and high school. Someone who impacted their education, who made a difference, who helped them reach this amazing achievement. This year, it's not just teachers. There are support staff, secretaries, and other individuals who make our schools run and make it a place of learning. Each student then prepared a speech on their selections. Tonight, you will hear funny stories, memorable moments, how they were challenged, defeated, encouraged, and supported, and how these individuals and families did this over all of their years in school. Being in the top of your class is truly a great accomplishment. One thing that I know is that they would not be here today if it wasn't for their first teacher, supporter, and role model, the parents and families. To the parents, your love and support is immeasurable. I want to congratulate you for raising amazing young ladies and gentlemen, for encouraging them to always work hard and to do their best. I can only imagine how proud you are of them. Before we begin with the top 30 speeches, I would like to say thank you to the Board of Education, Mr. Nowak, Mrs. Weinhauer, Mrs. Gessler, Mrs. Shebeck, and Mrs. Zelli. We appreciate your dedication to education and to our community. I'd like to thank Mr. Merrill for his years of service as he's finishing up his time here in Brunswick and wish him all the best as he goes into retirement. But I would also like to thank the board office, Mr. Niedermeyer, Mrs. Verhest, Mr. Geschke, Mrs. Armentrout, Mr. Pepera, Mrs. Newman, and Mrs. Aller for all your support of this program and all of our kids. This program would not occur without the assistance of several people and many people. I would like to thank Mrs. Ferrier, Mrs. Bryant, Mrs. Coates for their help in getting everything set up and organized today. And I would like to thank Mrs. Petrie, the 12th grade assistant principal, for her dedication to the senior class. This is a good time to remind everybody, please put your phones on silent. It is being recorded, and it will be up on the beat, so you know. So what's going to happen moving forward? I will call up the top 30 students one at a time. When you hear your name, please start coming down to the podium. I will have a copy of your speech up here ready to go, so you don't need to worry about that. And then I will announce the staff members that you are going to recognize. Staff members on the floor, I ask that you come up, and there's 3 points of gray on the floor. You'll receive a certificate, and I ask that you stand at an angle so that you can see and look at the individual who is recognizing you. At that point in time, the students will then give their speech, and then after the speech is finished, what I'm going to ask of the individual student and their staff members they are recognizing is to head straight out the center doors here and go over into the East Cafeteria. We have Kavanaugh Photography here that will take a picture of the student and the staff members that they are recognizing. You will each receive a professional copy of that down the road. After you get done over there with your picture, I ask that you quickly come back in quietly because several of you on the floor today will be up here several times to be recognized. So with that being said, we are going to begin. Please welcome Alexis Barton. Alexis participated in NHS, Link, gymnastics, and cheerleading. This fall, she will be heading off to The Ohio State University. She would like to recognize from Towsley Elementary School, Kim Safko, from Willits Middle School, Megan Vasu Gabanich, and from Brunswick High School, Jacqueline Chris. Ladies and gentlemen, Alexis Barton.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Before I begin to thank these 3 amazing faculty who have ever so impacted my life, I would like to thank my parents. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for being my biggest supporters throughout my entire life. No matter what I was doing, where I was going, I always knew you both had my back and always pushed me to be the greatest I could be. You guys are the reason I hold myself to such high standards in my academic, sports, and even just my daily life. Throughout my educational journey at Brunswick, I have encountered numerous impactful teachers that have shaped me into the individual I am today. The first teacher I'd like to recognize is Mrs. Safko. I had Mrs. Safko for 4th grade math and science. Now I remember Now, I remember her class like it was yesterday, and that might just be because it was where I received my first C. Although it was a 7 out of 9 on a small quiz that barely affected my overall grade, I took it like it was life or death. And she knew that because the next day at school, after I viewed the grade and progress book and we got the quizzes back, she took me aside and assured me I would be okay as I had tears in my eyes and that my grade would not be greatly affected at all. But what I appreciate most about her approach to myself receiving that C was that she didn't let me make up the points and redo the quiz, but she helped me get a better concept of the topic so I could do better on the next quiz and further in the class. She helped me get an understanding that I'll never always receive an A or be perfect at anything, and not to get upset, but to accept the mistake and learn from it. Because in life, you cannot always have redos, but there's always a learning experience. From that day forward, I never took a quiz lightly, no matter how few points it was worth. Thank you, Mrs. Safko, for teaching me to accept and learn from my mistakes, failures, or even missing 2 points on a quiz, instead of letting it define me. Next, I would like to thank Ms. Vasu. Now, I was not the student who easily connected with teachers. I was there to do my work and continue on and get my A. But Ms. Vasu didn't let me slip through the cracks. She brought so much life and personality to her class, it was hard to leave each day when the bell would ring. With each lesson she taught, she made it personal and worthwhile to every single student in her class. She made me feel important to her class and that I was meant to be there. Middle school is never an easy time, but Ms. Vasu's class was like a breath of fresh air every day. And a few weeks ago, I received an email from Ms. Vasu checking up on my senior year, and she recalled a memory from her 7th grade class with me. At first, I didn't even remember it, but but it came back instantly once you described the memory. At first, although that email may have seemed like a simple email, it meant more than that to me. After over 5 years, she still remembered not only me as a student, but a memory that I too will now remember forever. Thank you, Ms. Vasu, for making me and every student you encounter feel more than a number or just a paper to grade. Lastly, I would like to thank Jackie Christ. I have looked forward to this day to thank Jackie for quite some time. And this is because although I didn't have Jackie as a teacher in the classroom, she taught me more than imaginable about gymnastics, school, and life. I had Jackie as my gymnastics coach since freshman year for Brunswick's team. Brunswick Gymnastics is where I found home my freshman year of high school. The moment I stepped onto that team, I felt as though it is where I was always meant to be. As most do in any sport, I struggled both physically and mentally a lot. But that never stopped Jackie from coaching me. Even when I wanted to give up, that was not an option in Jackie's book. She pushed me to my limits and then even further. She knew my potential and she pushed me past it. And I owe a lot of the success I had in my gymnastics career to Jackie. But I owe an even greater thank you to her for helping shape me into the person I am today. Jackie showed and demonstrated me how to be a team player, how to get back up when I fall down, and how to walk into every room confident in myself. Jackie taught me that it's not how bad we have aches and pains, but how hard we work through those aches and pains. Everyone struggles at points, but Jackie taught me that is how hard you work through the struggles to see your success. And that went past the competition floor, but in life in general. To have that success, there must be a struggle and failure at first. And Jackie never let me forget that. Even when things weren't easy in the beginning, she pushed me to work through it. Thank you for teaching me that to have success, I must want it and work harder than anyone else. Thank you, Jackie, for shaping me into a better gymnast and person and never giving up on me, even when I wanted to give up on myself. Thank you, Mrs. Safko, Ms. Vasu, and Jackie Christ, along with my mom and dad, for helping me get to the point I am today. I could not have done it without you guys. Do I keep this?
I'm going to keep it.
Okay.
Just in case they want to hear it.
Okay.
Lift your head. All right, top 30 students, when you do come up here, please announce, make sure to recognize your family and introduce them. and announce what your major is going to be when you go to college as well. All right, up next, we have Olivia Borowski. Olivia has been involved in NHS, Link, cheerleading, and the dance team. She is also going to be heading down south wearing scarlet and gray to the Ohio State University. Today, she would like to recognize from Kidder Elementary School, Noelle Meehan, from Visitator Middle School, Renee Schweitzel, and from Brunswick High School, Mike Bozak. Ladies and gentlemen, Olivia Borowski.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Olivia Borowski, and I will be going to Ohio State University this fall, and I'm majoring in biomedical engineering. So I want to start off my speech by thanking all my family and friends for their support during my journey at Brunswick City Schools, especially my parents, Brian Borowski and Jennifer Harley. Thank you for your love and support. It's really helped me to be where I am today. Alongside these special people in my life, I would also like to thank all the amazing Brunswick teachers who have also impacted my life. These teachers have gone above and beyond to not only show me how to be a good student, but also help to guide me on the path of success. All 13 years I've spent in Brunswick City School, in this Brunswick City School District, I have been grateful to meet so many great faculty members, and tonight I would like to recognize 3 that have impacted my life the most. My journey at Brunswick City Schools began at Kidder Elementary. Every summer I would go up to the school and read the classroom lists off the front doors. But this particular year, I was hoping for a specific teacher. To my surprise, my wish had come true, and I was a part of Mrs. Meehan's 4th grade class. And she lived up to every expectation I had. Not only did she create many fun memories, like reading us the Genius Files or having pretzel rods for snacks every day, but she also cared a lot about her students. She would help shape my fellow students and I into becoming the best students we could possibly be. Thank you, Mrs. Meehan, for being such a great role model for young minds. After elementary school, I attended Visitator Middle School, where I soon met Mrs. Schweitzel. Alongside my 6th grade math teacher, she was also the coach of the math competition team she had me join, where we made many memories. She helped me find my love for mathematics and is one of the reasons why I'll be studying engineering in college. She would push me to be my best and eventually encourage me to test 2 grade levels above in math. Thank you, Mrs. Schweitzel, for helping me find my passion for math and for shaping me into a better student. Finally, my Brunswick City School journey ends with Brunswick High School. My 3rd and final teacher that I'm going to recognize tonight is my sophomore year pre-calculus teacher, Mr. Bozak. Not only was he an incredible teacher, but he truly cared about his students. When I was out sick with mono for 2 weeks at the end of the 3rd quarter, he took the time to review all the material with me so that I wasn't left behind. And when I was upset about my first B on a math test, he gave me a sticker anyways, even though it was supposed to go to the kids that only got A's. Thank you, Mr. Bozak. I really appreciate how caring and helpful you've been on my high school journey. I would like to give one final thank you to all the Brunswick teachers and staff. You all have each impacted my life in a different way, and I'm forever grateful for the memories that I have made here.
Please welcome Olivia Campbell. Olivia has been involved in NHS, Link, softball, and the yearbook. She's heading a little further south than Ohio State and heading to the University of Kentucky. Today, she would like to recognize from Applewood Elementary School, Brad Dye, from Visitator Middle School, Angela Ebert, and from Brunswick High School, Liz Middlesworth. Ladies and gentlemen, Olivia Campbell.
Hi, everyone. I'm Olivia Campbell, and I will be attending the University of Kentucky to study human health sciences. I would like to start off by thanking my parents, Pat and Denise Campbell. I know they are not teachers, but they have inspired me the absolute most and left an indescribable impact on the person I am today. I would not be standing in front of you all right now if it weren't for them. Applewood Elementary is a place I will never forget, and that is all because of the amazing teachers I had. However, a few of them stand out among the others. One, to be exact, would be Mr. Dye. Being my homeroom teacher in 5th grade, the laughs and memories are endless. Mr. Dye made me appreciate and look forward to school, as he always made sure we had a good time when we were there. Not only did he care about each one of his students while he had them, but he continues to even as we grow up. Mr. Dye still gives me a hug and a just as welcoming hello every time he sees me, almost as if he was still my 5th grade teacher. He still reaches out and checks in every once in a while, making sure he always keeps in contact even though I had him 7 years ago. Anyone who has Mr. Dye as a teacher is super lucky, as he cares about each individual student with his whole heart. Thank you, Mr. Dye, for never forgetting about me and inspiring me ever since the 5th grade. While at Visitainer Middle School, I was lucky enough to have one of my elementary teachers for the 2nd time. Mrs. Eber always had a smile on her face, and she gave me every reason to believe that I could come to her about anything and everything. Her class, both in 4th grade and 8th grade, always had me leaving in a happier mood. Her energy and excitement wore off on every student in her class, creating such a relaxed and comfortable environment that I always looked forward to being in. She has shown me that teachers are more than just someone who gives you assignments and lectures. They are your friends and people who genuinely care about you. Thank you, Mrs. Ebert, for making school so enjoyable for me and always being there when I needed a shoulder to lean on. I couldn't be more grateful to have had you as my teacher for 2 different years. Your kindness and compassion will always leave a lasting impact on me. Throughout my 4 years at high school, I've had too many inspiring teachers to count. There is one in particular, though, that holds a special place in my heart. I've had this teacher twice as well, in which I couldn't be more grateful for. Mrs. Middlesworth is one of the most kind-hearted, thoughtful, and friendly people I have ever met in my life. She never lets me pass her in the halls without saying hello and giving me the biggest smile, making me feel appreciated like no other. I will never forget the laughs and memories made in her class, specifically when she left in the middle of class to make me a bag of popcorn after overhearing I was hungry while talking to a friend. It's actions like that that truly make a student feel like they hold meaning to their teacher, and Mrs. Middlesworth made me feel like that every day. She constantly makes her students a priority and makes sure that class each day will leave you smiling. She inspires me to be kind to everyone and to go through life as happy as can be. I am so blessed to have had Mrs. Middlesworth as not only a teacher, but a friend I know I can always turn to no matter the situation. So thank you, Mrs. Middlesworth, for making every year of high school enjoyable, whether you were my teacher at the time or not. My years with you are unforgettable. Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Aidan Cooper. Aidan participated in the French Club at Brunswick High School and also has been recognized as the Business Professionals of America state champion. He is also going to be heading south to visit Brutus at The Ohio State University. Today, he would like to recognize from Huntington Elementary School, Ellen Foster, from Edwards Middle School, Jennifer Clark, and from Brunswick High School, Michael Bozak. Ladies and gentlemen, Aidan Cooper.
So first, I'd like to thank my mom and my dad for helping me out through, especially my high school years, because they helped me get a good balance between working hard and enjoying life. Because a lot of times I'd have a difficult time, I would spend hours studying and not realize I haven't eaten dinner. It's no secret that teachers don't get enough respect. They've changed my life in so many ways and set me on a path to greatness. And one of the paths that I took was the Excel program throughout the beginning of school for me. I can't explain how significant the impact that the Excel program had on me. Being in class with some of my closest friends for years helped me learn and grow as we shared so many great experiences. However, I don't think it would have been the same without Mrs. Foster. While fourth grade was so long ago and I don't remember a lot of it, I do remember a lot of the great projects we did and the influence that she had on my early days of learning. One thing I remember in particular is how she would tell us something interesting she learned on the radio that morning. It may see something so small. This is one of her many ways that she would pique our interest in the class to learn something new, like why the sky was blue or why we think our voices sound different when it's recorded. Fourth grade is a blur to me, but I do remember how impactful it was for my creativity and passion for so many things in life. Every day, I was confident that I would walk into school and be inspired and excited to learn, which is one of, if not the greatest trait an elementary school teacher could have. And then the Excel program continued into middle school, where while I already had Mrs. Clark in fifth grade, it was different because of the separate classes throughout the periods in the day. Seventh grade was very interesting for me and for my fellow Excel classmates because we had some classes in the Outdoor Learning Center, which was a building across the school's parking lot. In that classroom, one of my classes was Honors Algebra 1, which was the class that grew my interest in math. Mrs. Clark taught me that class, and her way of teaching was phenomenal to me. She has such a friendly and helpful attitude, and her way of teaching perfectly complemented the way I learned. The things that we learned in that class came so naturally to me and to so many of my classmates, and the midterms and final exam we took did not have the stress and dread that I have experienced recently in my more recent classes. The usually complicated class became as relaxing as a study hall because of the way she taught and acted towards her students. And I'm so glad that my path of mathematics started by crossing the parking lot, not like I'm heading to another class, but instead heading to an hour-long break. And finally, Mr. Bozak taught me honors pre-calculus. Unlike Algebra 1, pre-calc was a lot harder for me. Sometimes after that class, I would be so exhausted, especially once we got into the more difficult topics like trigonometry and matrices. However, Mr. Bozak has a relatable and an indescribably supportive personality that would make the class completely worth all that difficulty. Because this class was a lot more recent compared to the others, I remember a lot more details, like his phrases he would use to emphasize things. For example, he would say, "Don't go rogue," when he would show us the common mistakes his students would make, which was really funny whenever we would hear it. Along with this, he had so much passion when he was showing us the results of our tests. He would show actual pride if our test scores were great, and also he'd push us harder if they were lower than expected. He would also invite us all to ask questions about our individual results to see where we went wrong to fix our mistakes so that we actually were learning math rather than just passing the class. His lessons are the prime example of how a difficult math class should be taught. One unique memory I have in that class is as I was sitting down in my seat, I had full confidence that I was going to learn something new and cool, at least to me, that day, because that is how he taught even the most boring of topics. For every dull or stressful day I had at school that year, I would always have the thought of going to Mr. Bozak's class to pull me through. His personality is so welcoming, and when he's teaching, everyone is inspired to learn and enjoy the content. One of these things that these three teachers have in common is that they inspired me to be excited about class every day. If it weren't for them, I would not have pushed myself to work harder for the sake of learning. These teachers are the ones that are setting an example for our generation to have a positive attitude and to create an impact on the world. They help me understand the intrinsic value of learning. And in my mind, is worth the respect of anyone that meets them.
Up next, we have Hannah Kradock. Hannah was involved in NHS, Link, cheerleading, track and field, and is the top scholar from Medina County from Brunswick High School. Heading to the Ohio State University, Hannah would like to recognize tonight from Edwards Middle School, Paul Garrish, and from Brunswick High School, Sarah Salvatore. Ladies and gentlemen, Hannah Kradock.
Actually, I would like to honor one additional staff member tonight from my years at Huntington Elementary School, my principal, Mr. Merrill. This is for you. Hello, my name is Hannah Kradock. I will be attending The Ohio State University in the fall to study health and rehabilitation sciences. Before I begin, I would like to thank my parents, Beth and Gray Kradock, my grandma, Ruth Kradock, as well as my 3 older sisters, who have all been a huge part of my success and the opportunities that I've been presented with. They have continued to push me and allow me to grow to my fullest potential throughout the duration of my time in Brunswick City Schools, dealing with numerous meltdowns and late-night study sessions. As for my teachers, although I will only be recognizing a select few that have greatly influenced my time in Brunswick, I would also like to say a big thank you to all the teachers and staff members that have watched me grow up even before I entered their classroom and have repeatedly put in 110% effort to instruct, lecture, and prepare me for what is to come in my future. This school district has undoubtedly given me all the resources that I need, qualifying me for life outside of Brunswick, Ohio. With that being said, I would like to recognize my first staff member who has had one of the biggest leadership roles in my life and has done so much for me with it, Mr. Merrill. Mr. Merrill is a man that is often found doing the recognition for different occasions, saying congratulations and nice work to countless people. Tonight, I would like to recognize him instead, as he deserves that exact appreciation and acknowledgement in return. Many of you know Mr. Merrill as he is at the high school level. However, I got the pleasure of knowing Mr. Merrill many years before and in a much different setting than this one as my elementary school principal. I fondly remember Mr. Merrill as he was kissing pigs and getting taped to the walls of Huntington Elementary School, doing absolutely anything to encourage his students, yearning for them to work hard, endure challenges, and ultimately succeed. Mr. Merrill was always, and still is, searching for ways to make students' lives better inside and outside of the classroom. He works tirelessly to make sure that events just like this one run smoothly and according to plan, as well as making sure everyone is being shown off in the process. Mr. Merrill, you have made me, along with each and every student here, feel like we truly matter and have a greater purpose than what is held in these halls. Without having a committed leader like you, my academic career would not have begun and continued the way that it had. Although I will admit that I am often a little nervous when I pass him in the halls of the high school, since he is definitely a different man with teenagers than he was with third graders. I will always remember my goofy elementary school principal that motivated his students to prevail. So, Mr. Merrill, I want to thank you for always providing an environment in which I felt safe and one where I could grow to my strongest aptitude, whether that was at Huntington or the past 4 years in this very building. And again, thank you for giving me all the opportunities, recognition, and resources that I needed to continue my education through the next 2 buildings in the upcoming 7 years in Brunswick City Schools. Moving on to Mr. Garrish, my 6th grade health teacher at Edwards Middle School. I know, what a fun class to teach. But I strongly believe that there was not a better suited person for the difficult task than Mr. Garrish. I soon learned that he was a teacher that could take any class like this one and make it into one that is exceedingly memorable and one that his students always knew would be interesting if nothing else. Mr. Garrish continuously taught the class to his best ability and in the most exhilarating way you can teach 12-year-olds about personal hygiene. Middle school, specifically 6th grade, is a tough time for many as we are transitioning into a new school, finding new friends and ourselves along the way. However, his presence in class were like a breath of fresh air when it came to my set, indistinguishable day-to-day schedule. Mr. Garrish, you instantly made me feel right at home as you would welcome each and every one of your students with open arms, effortless acceptance, and of course, endless jokes. This behavior was second nature to Mr. Garrish. His classroom was a place where I could learn about important information, but more predominantly, teach me the significance of growing up, moving forward, and overcoming obstacles. Although this was the only year I got with you and all of your dad jokes, I cultivated many characteristics I needed to conquer middle school on my own from there on out. Without knowing it, you provided me with the abilities I needed in my upcoming years in middle and high school to stay true to myself and not run away from my problems. Thank you, Mr. Garrish, for being the one teacher in middle school that I knew I could always count on and go to when I needed some uplifting jokes, a place to escape the craziness of 6th grade, or just someone that I realized genuinely cared and wanted what was best for not only me, but for all of your students. Ending with Miss Salvatore, my 10th grade fast food teacher to be exact, but undoubtedly much more to me than just that. Not only did Sal teach me the difference between a julienne and bâtonnet cut and how to make a mean mac and cheese from scratch, she also taught me innumerable life lessons that I will undeniably carry with me as I conquer my next obstacles. Sal was my freshman year cheerleading coach, where I first got the privilege of knowing her. But from there on out, our relationship continued to grow. I remember walking into cheerleading conditioning as a naive 8th grader, being absolutely terrified of Sal, knowing that she was going to critique my high V or how I chanted, "Go Big Blue." However, years later, I believe that this is just one example of how she truly longs to see her girls and her students prosper. Sal has become a mother figure to me at the high school, and someone I know that I could repeatedly lean on, as she has certainly been there for me in my best times, and definitely some of my worst. I cannot even count how many times I would come to Sal's room crying because of a score I got on an A-push DBQ, or a 4-part AP chemistry question that I already knew got me about a quarter of the points. In each of these situations, she knew exactly what to say and what to do to reassure me that there are solutions to all the problems I could have thrown at her. I am so grateful that I had someone like you, Sal, that I knew I could go to in a heartbeat for advice, a good laugh, or just some leftover ramen noodles. You continuously provided me a safe and loving space where I could let down my guard when I found myself caught up in all the stress I was over-exaggerating that day. So no, you may not have taught me how to take the derivative of a logarithm, or what the differences between mitosis and meiosis are, but I believe that you taught me something even greater than that. You taught me the true importance of living in the moment, finding light in difficult situations, and that not every significant figure is really that imperative. Sorry, Mr. Bakery. These morals will definitely be ones that I will preserve and share as my future unfolds. Thank you for being that one teacher in a school of thousands of kids that continuously brought me light, happiness, truth, and everything in between. You have impacted not only my academic career, but many aspects of my life that will linger with me with no end in sight. Thank you again to these 3 wonderful teachers and amazing people that I am so grateful to have been given the opportunity to be taught and impacted by. I could go on and on about all the positive changes and character traits that you 3 have given me the ability to embrace, but I will end here. These 3 teachers will be ones I will forever be in debt to, as they have done so much for me in the short time that I knew them. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Merrill, that's why you couldn't get a program this evening. Our next honoree tonight is Savannah Dickens. She's involved in NHS, Huddle, Student Council, GSA, and VOFT. In the fall, she will be attending the University of Cincinnati. This evening, she would like to recognize from Huntington Elementary, Kristen Hunker. From Edwards Middle School, Aaron Vanek, and from Brunswick High School, Jessica Spittle.
Hi everyone, my name's Savannah, and like she said, I'll be attending the University of Cincinnati in the fall. I'm going to be studying chemical engineering with a minor in biology. So first I want to preface this by thanking my parents, Carol and Steve, who are in attendance, because without all of their support, I wouldn't be up here speaking to you all today. I wholeheartedly believe that the majority of a student's well-being comes not from how much their parents push them towards success, but how much their parents push them towards being content and happy with their life path, which I'm happy to say my parents have never failed to do. So thank you. Now, first I'd like to speak to Mrs. Hunker, who is my 3rd grade teacher. In 3rd grade, I switched to Huntington Elementary from Memorial to participate in the Excel program with other students throughout the district. But I was the only student from my old school, and I found it very difficult to make new friends. On top of that, I didn't play sports or an instrument, and I struggled to find any sort of passion, hobby, or creative outlet. With an already small class that was separated from the rest of the school, this made for a very lonely experience transitioning into 3rd grade. You assigned us weekly journals with a prompt that allowed us to be creative, and I remember one particular week we were assigned to write about our dream bedroom. You most likely don't remember this, as to most people it would seem insignificant, but I remember that you read my journal out loud as an example to the class and complimented me both on my creativity and quality of my writing. This was the first time, specifically as a student, that I can remember feeling truly special. Without even realizing it, you encouraged me to pursue things that I enjoy doing and that I'm good at, and this small trivial moment helped me develop a sense of individuality that has lasted throughout high school. You made me feel more comfortable finding things that I liked doing, and through this I began making friends. Being comfortable with myself and finding who I am was something very hard for me to do, as it is for everybody growing up. But with the small act of encouragement, you made it easier for me. Making students feel special and encouraging them to do what makes them feel special should be one of the main priorities of elementary school teachers, and you did that beyond comparison. Thank you for this, and continue doing what you're doing, because I can promise you it sticks with your students. Secondly, I'd like to speak to Mrs. Vanek, who was my language arts teacher in 6th and 7th grade. Once I got to middle school, like I said, I began making more friends, and I was slowly becoming more comfortable with who I was, but I still hadn't found any way to pursue any sort of passion that gave me something to do outside of my academics. Most of my friends either played a sport or had some sort of hobby that gave them something to look forward to in practice, and I've always believed that having a way to express yourself is vital to your happiness. In your class, you introduced the club that you were advising, Power of the Pen, where we practice creative writing, and you encouraged us all to join. At first, I was very skeptical because it didn't really seem like a way to fit in with the cool kids. But soon enough, I realized it was more important that I find something I enjoy doing with people that I enjoy being around, rather than doing things I hated because I thought more people would like me that way. So I attended the meetings, and I practiced creative writing with you and the other members of the club, and it began to be one of my safe spaces, where I could do something that I actually really liked doing with people that I knew wouldn't judge me for it. This club gave me a space to fearlessly be myself, which is something that's hard to do for a middle school girl. I will forever be grateful for you for providing the space for me. And then towards the end of the year, we went to the competition for Power of the Pen for the clubs near us. I think it was regionals or something like that. And we all participated and competed, and to my surprise, I ended up winning the entire competition for my grade level. And it might not have been any sort of big accomplishment that got me anywhere, but it felt like it to somebody who hadn't won anything like that before. It made me feel confident in myself, not only in my abilities, but just who I was becoming. And that's something of immeasurable value to somebody that age. I know I'll always remember the pure, genuine happiness I felt holding a trophy in front of that crowd of people, which I still have in my kitchen, by the way, and that you helped me get there. This may not be of significance to your teaching career, but it will always be a moment I hold close to my heart, and I want you to know that. I hope that you can take this and continue to encourage students to do what they love and to share in their happiness when they find that. Thank you for doing that for me. Lastly, I'd like to speak to Mrs. Spittle, who's one of the counselors at the high school during my sophomore year. Hoping I don't cry for this one. At the end of my sophomore year, the week before final exams, my best friend passed away. This came as a shock to many people I know, especially myself, and it made it very difficult to finish out the year. I've always valued my grades immensely, obviously, or I wouldn't be up here. But I couldn't focus on my schoolwork or studying for finals in the slightest, and I was so just lost, and I had no idea what to do or who to go to. I remember the day after it happened, I got sent down to guidance, and you were the first person I was sent to. And honestly, I thought it would have been impossible for anyone to help me during that time, and I resisted any sort of adult who tried to talk to me about it. And I thought you were just going to be another adult telling me it was going to be okay, not knowing what to say to a kid who just lost her best friend. You weren't like that, though. You listened to what I had to say and how I was feeling, and you stood up for me. In this world, specifically this school, time was still moving forward even though it felt like my life had came to a halt. You made it okay for me to stay in that spot without falling behind. You let me sit in your office for the entirety of the school day every day until the last day of school and provided me with whatever I needed. When it came for our final exams, you marched down to my first exam and pulled me out of it, making sure I'd be excused from all of them. I'll never be able to express the full gratitude that I have for what you did for me during those couple weeks that I was still in school. I was just a kid then, and I still feel like I am now, but you showed me that it's okay to be a kid and be vulnerable when it felt like everyone else around me was growing up. You showed me it was okay to feel the full extent of my emotions and that there would always be someone there to feel them with me. You made it possible for me to continue to strive not only for success, but for happiness, which at that time seemed like I would never find again. I'll never be able to put into words what you did for me, but just know that you made it possible for me to live my life freely and still aim for greatness. You do exactly what a counselor is meant to do and beyond. Thank you for being who you are and doing what you do, and I know that you'll impact many other students the way that you've impacted me. I just want to thank you all again for giving me the opportunity to be up here. Thank you.
All right, up next, we have Betty Dong. Betty is an NHS student involved in academic challenge, debate club, and marching band. Betty will be heading to Northwestern University in the fall. She would like to recognize from Visintainer Middle School, Nicole Schultz-Kapish, and from Brunswick High School, Joe Makery. Ladies and gentlemen, Betty Dong.
Tonight, I'd like to start by thanking my family, specifically my grandma, mom, dad, and sister was here, and you guys have lifted my spirit up throughout the years, and I'm grateful for your support. 非常感谢你们，我的成长过程多谢有你们好好担待。现在我会开始来感谢我的老师们。It has been a long time since middle school. The building's torn down now, and what used to be is what isn't what it is. At Viz, Ms. Schultz encouraged me to continue a passion for art. Monet's lily pads, Picasso's paintings, and Frank Gehry's sculptures became sources of inspiration at the time. I drew a treehouse and lily pad scene from the brushstrokes of Van Gogh. My architectural building was a bird designed after the dancing house at Prague. From 6th to 8th grade, you pushed me to expand what I have as an artist and encouraged me to develop in these realms. She pushed me to develop my own style from the influence of different styles and influences, and praised me when I have attempted different sorts of techniques of sketching. As I grew in high school and busied myself, I still have a knack of occasional doodling and watercolor painting. Ms. Schultz has been supportive of my creative pursuits, and drawing and painting has been a hobby that I enjoy to this day. Then it comes around to high school, and if I have a list of people who I disappoint, Mr. Maker would be one of the higher ones on the list. He challenged my thoughts in chemistry, which didn't apply to life. It was always fun in his class. The labs were interesting all the time, and I have to say, I love intermolecular forces, and titrations as well. He set the expectations high for me while still keeping a relaxed attitude towards life by making his special cheddar apple sausage and watching a short clip of The Office in class. He instilled the concept of hard work in his class to keep up with the pace of learning. Mr. Makery, thank you for supporting me through your encouragement of the high bars, both in class and in life. And in the style of the words of Kevin Malone from The Office, me think, make cool. He was a teacher who torched and air-fried my brain. After the journey in chemistry, I've become a better thinker, and I appreciate your guidance throughout my high school career. I honor Ms. Schultz and Mr. Makery tonight out of a long list of teachers who have influenced who I am today. I really appreciate and thank the things that you do for me during my high school years, middle school years, and overall have influenced me in life.
Nice job, Betty. All right, up next, we have Jeremy Epen. Jeremy was involved in NHS, orchestra, and is a volunteer at his church. Jeremy is going to be heading to Miami of Ohio, or Miami University, in the fall. He would like to recognize from Visintainer Middle School, Ellen Coder-Lynchins, and from Brunswick High School, Chanel Boyer. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeremy Epen.
I think I'm supposed to say like I'm majoring at biochemistry at Miami University. Okay, so good evening everybody, and congratulations again to everyone who achieved this accomplishment, and congratulations to all who support and encourage them along the way. I find that hard work and dedication is essential to development and achievement, but without strong guidance along each step from those you trust, it would be close to impossible to stay the course and overcome the many obstacles that we may face. I find this to be the case in my life, and I am very grateful to all that guided me. I would like to thank my parents who raised me to work hard and be ambitious in my life and in my academics, and above all, to put my trust and hope in God as my preeminent strength and desire. And I am greatly indebted to them. And I thank you both for leading with example in your own lives, giving me a model to which I may follow for the rest of my life. I would now like to acknowledge two teachers who helped me along my academic journey. I would like to acknowledge Mrs. Likens, who I knew at the time as Miss Coder, who was my 7th grade language arts teacher. I remember coming to visit Tainer Middle School for the first time that year and going to her class the first day, and she was so eager to be helpful and show kindness any way she could. Mrs. Likens was a teacher who actually helped me get into my first honors class that year, being honors language arts. And I remember being so excited and happy to finally be in that class after the first couple weeks of being at Viz. The amount of support and guidance that she provided me during the first year at Brunswick was beyond her call of duty as a teacher. And I know my academic career would have been much different having not been able to be part of her class. So I thank you very much, Mrs. Likens, for the kindness and grace which you showed to me. I would now like to acknowledge Miss Boyer, who was my 12th grade biology teacher this year. Miss Boyer was so incredibly overjoyed at the prospect of the opportunity to have me as her student, I'm assuming, that during a visit to my chemistry class around the end of 11th grade, she taught me some cool bio stuff a little ahead of schedule about scientists using DNA to encode books, movies, and all kinds of information, which I assume all of you find interesting as well. Well, this practically blew my mind because I love learning about this stuff. And ever since then, Miss Boyer has been dedicated to entertaining every question or weird application that popped into my head every so often during class. Miss Boyer was always willing to push me to grow in that class. She would relentlessly scrutinize every essay where I would write way too much in handwriting only I could occasionally read. Yet she gave her best effort to read the whole thing, which was very impressive to me. So I thank you very much, Miss Boyer, for the constant encouragement and guidance which you gave to me. And I know that my commitment to learning this subject and astonishment of it is greatly due to the time and effort you provided me this past year. I assure you there are many more I could name who poured into my life. Nevertheless, thank you very much to the individuals I acknowledged, and I hope that you all will be greatly blessed in your lives for the grace you provided me.
Please welcome Lana Estok. Lana will be, as a member of Brunswick High School, she participated in NHS, Huddle, AP and We, being a mentor toward elementary students that are potentially coming to the AP program, and tennis. She is also heading to The Ohio State University. Today, she would like to recognize from Crestview Elementary School, Lori Thomason, from Willits Middle School, Megan Visu Gabanich, and from Brunswick High School, Michelle Raglow. Ladies and gentlemen, Lana Estok.
Hello, my name is Lana Estok, and as Mr. Merrill told you, I'm going to Ohio State, and I'll be studying criminology. Oh my gosh, I just love you guys. Okay, so I would like to start off by saying thank you to my parents, Patty and Steve, my sisters and friends for continuously supporting me throughout the past 12 years of my life. You've dealt with a substantial amount of complaining, been understanding when I've had to stay home and study, and been a reliable shoulder to cry on when things didn't go as my perfectionist brain had hoped. I also want to thank all of my teachers and other staff members I have encountered during my time at Brunswick. I truly would not be standing here today without each and every one of you. I'm not kidding, there's like 10 other teachers here that I love so much, and you know who you are. So narrowing my influential teacher options down was incredibly hard, and I wish I could pick more than 3. I did end up selecting 3 extraordinarily important people that I think deserve all the recognition in the world. Not only did my attendance at Crestview Elementary School begin my academic career, it also introduced me to some of the best role models I will ever meet. I enjoyed my time with all my teachers, but one specific teacher had an incredible impact on my life. Miss Thomason, my 5th grade math and science teacher, sparked my love for learning and my motivation to work hard to reach my fullest potential throughout the rest of my education and future. From introducing me to long division to showing me how to do a factor rainbow, you made learning fun. Your class was the first time I was pulled aside into a group to receive more challenging work than the rest of the class. This push didn't come without many encouraging words that reassured me that I could do it if I put in the work. Your classroom was a safe space where creativity and expression were encouraged, and I am forever grateful for experiencing it. I can only hope to be a fraction of the person you are, Ms. Thomason. I thank you for being my rock for the past 7 years. In my experience, it's a common belief that middle school is arguably some of the worst years of a person's life. Fortunately, that was not the case for me. I still remember the first day I walked into Miss Vassu's 7th grade science classroom. She stood at the entryway and frantically waved and smiled with the most infectious smile on her face. That combined with the most random classroom decor instantly told me I was in for a crazy but fun year. And I was right. Science has never been my favorite subject, as my science teachers here know, but your class made learning science fun. Not only did I learn a substantial amount in your classroom, every single day was exciting. I can remember laughing to the point my stomach hurt and tears rolled down my face. One specific time was when you accidentally called Vanessa Hudgens Selena Gomez. Not sure where that came from, but that made me laugh so hard. You taught me valuable life lessons through the stories you shared about your own life experiences. I was lucky enough to have you a second year during Project Lead the Way in the 8th grade. You left the kindest words on every single assignment I ever submitted. I worked hard not only for myself, but because I wanted to live up to your expectations and do everything to avoid disappointing you because I valued and still do value your opinion of me. You are so important to me because you continue to check in on me years after I left your classroom. I aspire to possess your optimistic outlook on life and your determination to be the light of everyone's day. I'm standing here at the ceremony because of you, Miss Vassu, and I will never forget how you changed my life. Most people will tell you that junior year of high school is the most important school year because it's the most recent year colleges will look at. Consequently, junior year tends to be the most difficult. Taking AP courses are taunting and sometimes scary, but walking into Mrs. Raglow's AP Lang class was the polar opposite. I've never met a kinder soul than yours, Miss Raglow. From the first day of your class where we chose what we would bring onto a deserted island to the last day where we waved goodbye and closed our computers over Google Meet, I enjoyed every single second of my time with you. We bonded over strong female characters in books and TV shows, and I will cherish our conversations about them forever. Watching you support not only me, but every single one of your students was extremely admirable. Your constructive criticism never failed to begin with a compliment on the work we already had done. You turned me into a better writer and a better person, and I will never be able to thank you enough for that. I look to you as the blueprint of the woman I want to be. Ms. Raglow, thank you. And finally, thank you to everyone attending tonight for allowing me to give thanks where they are undeniably necessary, and congratulations to my fellow classmates on all of your successes. Thank you.
Nice job, thank you. Please welcome Mallory Goodwin. Mallory was involved in NHS, Link, Student Council, and the dance team while at Brunswick High School. Mallory is also heading to The Ohio State University. She would like to recognize from Edwards Middle School, Leah Solanea, also known as Solo when I read through everybody's speeches, and Mrs. Heather Klein. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mallory Goodwin.
Hello everyone, I'm Mallory Goodwin and I will be majoring in marketing at The Ohio State University. To start off, I would like to thank my parents, Larry and Tanya Goodwin, for everything they have done for me to help me get here. I would not be here without them. And since I was not in the Brunswick School District for elementary school, I'm going to start with my middle school teacher. I went to Edwards for middle school, and the teacher I chose from there is Mrs. Solo. I had Mrs. Solo for math in 7th grade, and one of the main reasons I chose her was because she was always so happy and she just made her class fun. Anytime I'd see Miss Solo in the hallways or even out of school, she would always smile or start up a conversation with me. She was so personable, and it felt like she really connected with her students. She would just do extra little things to make her class fun, which I think every student appreciated and enjoyed. Her classroom never felt just like any other classroom. She has this way of making everyone feel included and would always help in any way she could to make sure everyone understood what was going on. You know, in some classes, teachers like having silence or things can be awkward if you try to answer a question and you get it wrong. That was never her class. Even if you got a question wrong in her class or did not understand something, it never felt as embarrassing as maybe it could in other classes because nobody really cared about being wrong. Everyone just enjoyed the class, which I think made it really special. Math was never my favorite subject, but I loved her class, and I think it was because of Mrs. Solo being my teacher. She just made such a difference, and I know a lot of students from Edwards feel the same. Overall, Mrs. Solo is just a great person and a great teacher that I really enjoyed having, and she stood out the most out of all my middle school years. So thank you, Mrs. Solo. For high school, the teacher I chose is Mrs. Klein, who was my physics teacher last year. Anyone who had or knows Mrs. Klein knows she goes above and beyond for her class. I'd heard from friends who had her before that she was a great teacher and that they loved her class, so I was excited when I got her, and they were not wrong. Mrs. Klein also had a way of making every student feel appreciated, and she always had a way to help every student. If you did not understand the lesson we learned that day and you were confused, she had a way of being able to explain it in a different way and help each student in a way that would make more sense to them instead of just repeating what she had said before, which made her a great teacher. Along with that, her classroom always just has such a positive vibe to it, a lot coming from her and the demonstrations she did. The demonstrations she did in her physics class were just so fun, and she let students try them on their own if they wanted, which could help them learn better or even if they just wanted to do it for the excitement of it. Along with all that, another thing that stood out to me was that once we went all online last year when COVID first hit, she continued that same way of teaching online. She would post slideshows for each lesson we still had to learn, and in those slideshows she would include examples of videos and even videos of herself talking and recording in her house so that we could understand as best as we could from our own homes. She would post videos of her drawing on a whiteboard at home, and she would do physics demonstrations from her house with things she had to make sure everyone had the best chance at learning the information. This all went a long way for me, and I appreciated it a lot because I felt that I still learned so much in physics those last 2 months of school last year. Mrs. Klein is just so kind, and I looked forward to her class every day last year. I remember you as one of the teachers who stood out the most to me throughout my high school years, and I'm so grateful to have had you for physics. Thank you to both Mrs. Klein and Mrs. Solo for everything you both have taught me, for both being so positive, which made your classes what I looked forward to during the day. I'm so grateful to have had you both, and I will take something that I learned from each of you as I continue into college next year. Thank you.
Please welcome Alexander Jerkako. Alex participated, did I get it right? Jerkako. Alex participated in NHS, Link, volleyball, and is a GCC Scholar Athlete. Alex will be attending John Carroll University in the fall. He would like to recognize from Huntington Elementary School, Ellen Foster, from Edwards Middle School, Jennifer Clark, and from Brunswick High School, Mr. Joe Makery. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jerkako.
Good evening, everybody. Is it? Okay. Yes, I'm attending John Carroll in the fall, and I am going to study mechanical engineering and engineering physics. And I want to start off by thanking my parents, Ray and Melissa Jerkako, and all of the other family that has come here tonight to help me recognize my teachers. I know everybody knows this. It's very hectic, teenage life nowadays, and without their support, I definitely would not be as successful as I am today. And I also want to start by saying I'm not great with words, so my thankfulness is not going to come out as great as I want it to, but I just wanted to preface with that. So I started my educational career in elementary school at Crestview, and I quickly moved to Huntington when the gifted program started, and there I met Mrs. Foster. She was my 4th grade teacher, but I had her for 3 years, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And I truly believe I would not be where I am today if it weren't for her. Up until the gifted program, I had a hard time engaging in school because it wasn't very, I don't want to say challenging, but it wasn't very, I guess, engaging. It was up until then that I finally started to I actually got really stressed in elementary school, but Mrs. Foster made it a lot less stressful with the amount of support that she gave me. We did a lot of interesting activities. We did, I think they were called Envision projects, but we did some inventions. We did a backyard getaway. I remember pretending to be pioneers. It was all very exciting, and it made elementary school a lot more enjoyable for me. And one instance I remember specifically is during 4th grade math, we were going through a simple word problem packet, and Mrs. Foster had just told everybody what the answer to one of the questions was, and I raised my hand and explained for 5 whole minutes probably the way that I got to that answer, and I definitely got a lot of teasing for it because it was silly and I annoyed a lot of my classmates, but she stood there and she listened very politely, and at the end she was like, yeah, that works too, and that was it. So the support that Mrs. Foster had given me in the gifted program from 3rd through 5th grade has definitely changed who I am today, and the amount of support and kindness that she's given to me will always have an impact on my life. So thank you, Mrs. Foster. At Edwards Middle School, I had the pleasure of being the student to a lot of amazing teachers, some of which are here today. But I wanted to recognize Mrs. Clark, who I also had for 5th grade and then 6th and 7th. So Mrs. Clark was my math teacher from 5th to 7th grade, and I think right around this time in my life is when I started to think about what I wanted to do with my career as going into the STEM field, and she helped me solidify that idea. I loved learning math, and the way that she taught it was so engaging to me that I loved the whole 3-year span of it. It was amazing. She taught the class that was so easy for me to understand, and I picked up on everything very quickly. Our Excel class was together for about 6 years, and with her it seemed like we had become a lot closer. During 5th and 6th grade, we played this game called Werewolves at the end of the year, and we all got really close together, and it was because she had that game to let us play. And overall, I think Mrs. Clark has not only brought me closer to my classmates, but also to one of my greatest strengths, mathematics. I think my high school career is about as amazing as I could have hoped for in terms of academic instructors. I had a lot of great pit stops along the way, a lot of teachers that I am incredibly thankful for. Of the many greats that I had, I'd like to recognize Mr. Makery. He was my teacher for both honors and AP chemistry, and I'm glad I can say that. Throughout those years, I've heard a million stories, and I'm sure he has a million more. Not only did he teach me thermodynamics and proper titration techniques in AP chemistry, but he also taught me a lot of life lessons from his stories. I'll never forget the demos he did either, from setting the lab table on fire to basically exploding solid sodium in water. I promise the class was safe. We all had safety goggles too. On top of all the things his class gave me, he even went a step further. Mr. Makery's neighbor is a senior technologist at NASA's Glenn Research Center, and over last summer, he gave me his contact information, and I was able to exchange emails back and forth between him and Mr. Makery, and because of this experience, I got a very clear view of what I want to do with the rest of my life, and I am incredibly thankful for that. I can't thank you enough for the preparation you've given me, and I'm incredibly grateful to have been your student. Throughout my career here at Brunswick City Schools, I've had so many great experiences. I know without these experiences, I wouldn't be who I am today, both in success and character. To Mrs. Foster, Mrs. Clark, Mr. Makery, to all the other teachers that I've had, to Brunswick City Schools, I thank you.
Mrs. Clark will be right with you. Up next, please welcome Sophia Cortan. Sophia is involved in mixed symphonic choir and volunteers at her church and club soccer. She is going to be heading to The Ohio State University as well. From Huntington, she would like to recognize Ms. Jennifer Clark. From Edwards Middle School, Mark Steinmetz. And from Brunswick High School, Mrs. Michelle Raglow. Ladies and gentlemen, Sophia Cortan.
Okay, so I'm Sophia. I'm here today with my parents, my uncle, and 3 of my good friends. and I am undecided in the honors program at The Ohio State University. So I just want to thank everybody that's helped me through this journey so far. One of those people is Mrs. Clark from Huntington and Edwards. She offered me an enriching and growing experience from 4th grade until 7th. She provided a fun, safe, and welcoming learning environment, starting with my time in the Excel program at Huntington Elementary School. Every day, I would look forward to class in school with only the assurance that she would be there the whole time. She is approachable, friendly, and one of the most understanding people I have ever met. Because of my family, I would continue to see her and spend time with her even after her time as my teacher was up. I will never forget walking across the parking lot between the two middle schools, rain, snow, or shine, to get to math class every day in the Outdoor Learning Center. Or when she accidentally displayed the answers to our midterm exam on the smartboard screen 5 minutes before we were supposed to take it. She was flexible with her teaching, which made it fun and interesting for us students. My junior and senior year, as a part of the AP and WE program, I was able to revisit Huntington with a new agenda to mentor and guide the kids who are in the same place today that I was 8 years ago, alongside my past teachers, including Mrs. Clark and Mrs. Foster. So thank you, Mrs. Clark, for having such a big impact on me. Next up is Mr. Steinmetz from Edwards Middle School. He exposed his students to new perspectives and ideas throughout his teaching. An unprecedented course was just starting up at Edwards Middle School when I was in 7th grade, and Mr. Steinmetz would be the one to teach it. Through teaching coding, he showed his students how creativity mixes with math and numbers, and this course appealed to me and others because it was a new elective and allowed us to express ourselves more freely and through the games we created. When I think of Mr. Steinmetz, it reminds me of how he could make any type of schoolwork fun, as he taught me social studies as well. And I will never forget the positive referral that I got from the office the next day after we did our Hello from the Mongol Side bulletin board. He was one of the first teachers, especially in middle school, to show that class didn't have to be boring. Looking back on the social studies class, I would say it was the most fun social studies class I have ever taken. The subject comes off as boring to me and just doesn't interest me. It's true. But through our creative projects in his class, the environment was unlike any other. I will never forget the day when successive unrelated events taken place in our classroom put the whole school into a panic. One of my peers had slammed the door to the back room accidentally, and followed by the later deemed accidental sounding of the active threat alarm over the loudspeaker, everybody went silent. Minutes later, there was a knock at the door, and just as we had practiced during our drills, everybody crouched underneath the tables, and Mr. Steinmetz rose to the occasion, 2x4 in hand, ready to swing it like a baseball bat. But once he opened the door, it was only Mr. Lawrence who came to check on us after he heard the door slamming. So I don't very vividly remember this, but we were talking about an event, a high school event in class one day, where you would look down over your years and pick a teacher from your middle school to recognize. And we were talking about it, and Mr. Steinmetz said that he had never been recognized. And I vowed that when I was here, if I was here, that I would choose him. So thank you, because the years that I had with you had a lasting effect on me. All right, Brunswick High School. Mrs. Raglow was more than a teacher to most everybody she has crossed paths with. She successfully encourages growth in our writing and skills and is supportive and understanding along the way. As I knew my writing could use improvement, I enrolled in AP Lang and didn't know what to expect with Mrs. Raglow, as I had never met her before. Starting the first day of class, she was energetic, excited, and completely herself. Her positive energy permeated the premises of the classroom and captured the attention of her students right from the start. Not knowing that an AP class could be fun and not completely focused on the preparation of the material for the exam, I was taken by surprise with the amount that I found myself enjoying this class. Mrs. Raglow has a charming personality where spending time around her lifts you up no matter what kind of day you had. She is always the first person to detect deviating facial features and take action to ensure that she is here for you. She forms personal bonds with her students unlike any other and talks to us personally and sincerely, which was a change from the types of teachers I have had before. I vowed to take senior seminar when I learned that she taught it along with Mr. Belkoffer, another one of my favorite teachers. She nurtured my writing, where eventually I felt more comfortable with it and like a better writer in general. So thank you, Mrs. Raglow, for nurturing me and enriching my learning experience.
Please welcome Morgan Lewicky. Morgan's involved in student council, the diversity club, and VOFT. She will be going to Bowling Green State University in the fall. Today, she would like to recognize from Crestview Elementary School, Kelly Rutkowski, from Edwards Middle School, Lori Wagner, and from Brunswick High School, Miss Valerie Roman. Ladies and gentlemen, Morgan Lewicky.
Hi everyone, my name is Morgan Lewicky. I will be going to Bowling Green State University and majoring in early childhood education. First, I'd like to thank my mom, my dad, and my stepmom for being here today and for always supporting me and encouraging me. First, I want to recognize Ms. Rutowski today because she has inspired me to become a teacher. She always had a smile on her face. I don't remember a time when she didn't. She was always supportive and full of energy to teach us. She was always there to help and made learning fun. I remember she had a poster in the back of her room and we each had clothespins with our names on them. Every time we did a good job on our work, we got to move our clothespins up to the next section, and when we got to the very top, we got a piece of candy. I remember being so excited getting close to the top, and I would always go for the Mambas. When I was in elementary school, I didn't really have any friends, but she was always there for me, and she was my friend. I used to love helping her grade and organize papers rather than going to recess, and I'd like to thank her for supporting me and encouraging me to do my best. Thank you. Next, I'd like to recognize Ms. Wagner. It feels like just yesterday, Ms. Wagner was sitting in the audience during my God, Flag, and Country speech. I remember she was proudly smiling at me in the audience, and I felt her support and encouragement through that smile without needing any words. She constantly supported me with every assignment and throughout the entire year. She also made class fun and made reading and writing fun. Language arts was not always my favorite subject, but Ms. Wagner helped foster my love of writing and taught me that it is more than just words on a page. One of my favorite memories from her class was when we made fluffernutter sandwiches because the character in our story had one and no one knew what it was. So to better connect with the character, Ms. Wagner brought in bread, peanut butter, and marshmallow fluff. Ms. Wagner has taught me many things that I use every day in my writing. She helped build a strong foundation that will help me in college, and she is the reason that I've been able to achieve this today. Not only did she help me with my reading and writing skills, but also with my organizational skills, which I use a lot. The most important thing that she has taught me is to give it my all and to never give up. What she has taught me has helped me so much, and I am grateful that she took the time to always help and encourage me. Thank you. From the high school, I'd like to recognize Ms. Roman. She has been my teacher for 4 years now, and each year she has helped me grow not only as a musician and a student, but as a person too. She has always had my back and is constantly encouraging me and pushing me to do the best and pushing me to be the best that I can be. Most of all, she has always believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. I almost quit orchestra last year, but Miss Roman wasn't going to let that happen. She helped me to realize my potential and inspired me to rediscover my love for music. Now I can't imagine not having orchestra as a part of my daily life. Her class brings joy to my day and always brings laughter. She has such a bubbly and amazing personality that helps me enjoy learning and making music every day. She has always been so supportive, even with things not related to orchestra. And when learning became difficult this past year, Ms. Roman kept pushing us to make the best of the situation and to continue to work hard. She put so much effort and hard work into making this year the best that it could possibly be, from pre-recording concerts and creating practice videos to experimenting with new online programs while we are fully online. Thank you for always making me laugh and always encouraging me.
Please welcome Emma Masha to the stage. Emma is involved in NHS, Link, Student Council Officer, and an Optimist Award winner. Emma is going to be heading to Baldwin Wallace in the fall. From Applewood, she would like to recognize Miss Debbie Kreider. From Visitator Middle School, Miss Julie Banovich. And from Brunswick High School, Joe Makery. Ladies and gentlemen, Emma Masha.
Hi, I'm Emma Masha, and like Mr. Merrill said, I'll be going to the Baldwin Wallace University, and I'll be majoring in neuroscience and chemistry. I'd like to start off by not only thanking my parents, grandparents, sisters, and aunt, but by thanking every teacher I've had that I was unable to recognize tonight, because every teacher has impacted me in some way. Starting off with Miss Kreider, it was more than necessary I recognize her tonight. She bonded with her students like no other, and my class is no exception. Not only her, but everyone in that class felt like family because of the way she not only taught us, but treated us as students. She made everyone feel capable, respected, and respected each student to such a degree of equality that I never felt like a second grader, but a much more mature and smarter student. She was so encouraging in the sense that she believed in everyone the same to succeed. The fact that she was so kind and fair to everyone made us more inclined to follow her rules as well, because we respected her so much. She never talked down to us, and I feel like that had so much to do with building my confidence in the student I am today. Not only in the classroom, but Ms. Kreider supported every student outside the classroom as well. Whether it was a piano recital for me, a gymnastics meet, baseball game, you name it, Ms. Kreider was there supporting her students. It made it so easy to not only learn about normal school subjects, but life topics in general from a teacher who was so warm and willing to do anything for her students, to show that they were cared for and important. I never realized how important it was then, but as I grew up, I realized how much effort was put in to make us all feel important and how much of an impact that had on how we felt as students. It truly shaped me into the student I am today, as she helped me feel recognized and intelligent. Furthermore, I just really wanted to thank you, Ms. Kreider, because whether you knew it or not, you helped shape me into the student I am today. Up next, I'd be honored to thank my 6th grade language arts teacher, Ms. Banovich. Similarly, Ms. Banovich made it a great point to bond with her students, making herself available for anyone to come to her with anything that may be bothering them. I even remember keeping a hair straightener in her room in case anyone ever needed to fix their hair. Instead of normal attendance, we always started class with the topic of the day, where each day a new question was answered and a new topic discussed. It's little things like this that I now realize make such a difference with teachers and their students, because it's so heartwarming seeing the effort teachers make to truly understand and relate to their students. Being a 6th grader, we all thought we were so cool, a mask hiding behind being so frightened in a new school, but things like this made everyone feel so much closer together. A time I specifically remember that stood out to me greatly was when I was rejected entry into a club that meant a lot to me, and I was very eager to join, that Ms. Banovich happened to be on the committee for. That day, Ms. Banovich pulled me into the hall and told me that she decided to step down from the committee because she felt like it was no longer representative of the achievements and hard work of the students, because I should have been accepted. Whether that was true or not, that meant way more to me than being accepted into any club could, because I felt like not only was someone on my side sticking up for me, but she truly believed in me, which encouraged me so greatly that I never lost confidence. It was such a special feeling having someone on my side that recognized my hard work and accomplishments, so much so that they would step down from a position to prove their point. I never forgot that, and I don't know if I ever properly thanked you enough for that, for believing in me and encouraging me so much academically. As mentioned previously, it is so easy to respect and learn from a teacher where you feel that respect is reciprocated as well, and I thank you so much for everything that you did for me. Last but certainly not least,
I'd like to thank Mr. Makery, my chemistry teacher. Taking honors chem as a sophomore, I thoroughly enjoy the class content as well as the random real-life discussions we'd have during that class as well. I remember the day of the final in honors chemistry, Mr. Makery wrote such a kind and encouraging letter on the back, somewhere along the lines of, even if we hated chemistry, he hoped that we had learned something from his class, whether it be chem-related or not, and that we would go out and experience life. Especially being an honors chem student, it was so easy to get tied up in grades, and that was only more true taking AP chemistry as well. I hadn't considered taking it until he suggested that I do, and although it scared me at first, I realized that was my favorite class I'd ever taken in my life. Not only do I plan on majoring in chemistry, but the content I had learned, as well as stuff I learned about life and what it meant to be a good student, changed me forever. I had always been a straight-A student, as grades have always been so important to me, almost to a fault. But that class challenged me in a way that forced me to realize that I could still be a great student even without the perfect A. Mr. Makery knew the subject matter was hard, but he never discouraged us. He would always tell us no matter the grade we got, the content we learned would be so valuable to us in our future, and that truly shaped me to realize that a grade can never reflect how much effort and knowledge I possessed for my classes. Mr. Makery helped completely change my perspective, saying that GPA and grades didn't matter to a certain degree, but what I learned as a human being was priceless. He made us feel proud no matter the grades we achieved and no matter the score in the AP exam, because we worked so hard to get where we were that it seemed almost funny that a grade could reflect all that we worked hard to get. I will be so forever thankful for the random topics we talked about during class, as Mr. Makery is so knowledgeable in so many different areas of life that it truly inspired me to not limit myself, as well as not be so worried about my grades as a student, because so much more matters. He really helped me realize how interesting chem is and how it is everywhere around us, and I've never been more passionate about a class than I was in that one, and I didn't even realize it at the time. Although his class may have humbled me like no other, it truly made me a different student, one that is less stressed about grades and much more focused on the content that I'm learning, which made me such a better student. I learned to think conceptually and critically, and Mr. Makery's teaching style was so effective, as I truly felt like I wasn't memorizing information for a test just to forget it for the next topic, but bettering my understanding and immersing myself in topics. I can never thank you enough for all that you've done for me and so many other students. I just wanted to close off my speech by again saying how grateful I am for these teachers and so many more recognized here tonight. I brought up respect a lot, and I just need to express how important for me as a student it was to feel not only respected but validated no matter my age or subject matter. Learning is so important to me, so I would never be able to thank these teachers enough for making it not only easy to learn from them, but easy to listen to them because of how they understood how it felt to be a student. Their empathy and respect is what made me a better student and a better learner in life. Thank you so much.
Please welcome Brandon Matthias. Brandon is involved in Academic Challenge, track field, and is a National Technical Honor Society member at the Career Center. And Brandon has also earned his Eagle Scout. He will be attending Cleveland State University in the fall. From Huntington, Miss Kathy Becks. Edwards Middle School, Miss Lori Wagner. And from Brunswick High School, Miss Kristen Waite. Ladies and gentlemen, Brandon Matthias.
Hi everyone, as you said, my name is Brandon Matthias. I'm attending Cleveland State University in the fall to study sports medicine and exercise science. Of course, I would like to thank the two people that are the most important in my life, my parents, Michael and Martha Matthias, for being there my whole life and through this transition in school and always hearing me complain and stress about school. They've been there consistently, and I can't thank them enough. When I found out I was going to be nominating teachers for the ceremony, I had to really think about who I would like to call out. At first, I thought the choices would be difficult, but as time passed, I began to realize it was not that hard of a choice at all. These individuals have been a part of my life, led me to who I am today. There are always those teachers who we have in school that leave a special impact on us. They speak, communicate, and connect differently than other teachers. I would first like to thank Mrs. Becks from Huntington Elementary. As my 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Becks was someone I will never forget. Due to both of my brothers being in the class, I had some knowledge already. However, I did not realize how much of an experience was going to come from that class. Mrs. Becks is someone who would be a good friend, but also a strict teacher. She was able to find that middle ground of having fun and learning to the best of our ability. There was always a challenge to be done in the class with never an opportunity to settle. I remember specifically there was a time we were learning about the Gettysburg Address, and she said if anyone were to memorize it, they would get an A for third quarter. So naturally, someone with way too much time, I took 3 days and I memorized it, and I got the A. And it kind of carried on with me for way too long. Even in middle school, I would be brought into random classes to say it, and social studies classes. And okay. I think the lesson here is that if you have an opportunity and these teachers give you one, no matter how weird it is, you go get it. From Edwards Middle School, I will be thanking Mrs. Wagner. That 7th grade language arts class is one that has many memories in it. From making peanut butter and marshmallow fluff sandwiches, already mentioned, to dressing up as Elvis for a presentation I will never forget. I've heard stories of how tough Mrs. Wagner was, but I had no idea until I was actually in the class. This was someone who did not mess around. That might not sound fun, but she knew how to entertain us. 1 second we would all be silent after getting yelled at, and the next we would all be dancing to the newest pop music. I think the most interesting part about Mrs. Wagner was how she would always push us to question more. I remember we were talking about the plot of a book, and she would continuously ask us why. Why would the character do this? Why was the setting here? And we would answer with simple answers, and she would ask why again. And I remember, at the time, I was like, what are we doing? But when I'm thinking about it now, when I was writing the speech, I realized it was that we always have to question the world. So thank you, Mrs. Wagner, for widening my view on life. Finally, from Brunswick High School, I am thanking Mrs. Waite. When you enter high school, you can connect with the teachers more easily because the students are more mature, and Mrs. Waite was the first teacher I was able to connect with. What was so different about that language arts class was how fun the activities were and how we were actually able to learn the material. I remember we had to make a parody to a song to help remember the helping verbs, and I did TikTok by Kesha. And yeah, to this day, I still know my parody over the actual song, so I'm not going to sing it, so no one asks. We also acted out Romeo and Juliet instead of reading it, and we would just do more activities instead of just reading, which I'm not someone who enjoys reading just straight up, so being able to act it out, it really helped us. Mrs. Waite was someone who truly cared about her students. I could always tell it was more about making us better people than knowing how to write an essay. Even after I left her class, she would help me in different things, such as writing letter of recommendations for college and just asking how life is going. Thank you, Mrs. Waite, for making high school more fun and less stressful. Standing here today, I can't explain how much I appreciate BHS for the last 13 years, and Mrs. Bex, Mrs. Wagner, and Mrs. Waite for making the experience so much better. Thank you.
Please welcome Alyssa Morale. Alyssa was an NHS student, participated in AP and WE, involved in marching band, wind ensemble, and the Bee. She will be heading to the University of Toledo in the fall. She would like to recognize from Huntington Elementary School, Miss Ellen Foster, from Edwards Middle School, Miss Jennifer Clark, and from Brunswick High School, Mr. Mark Belkoffer. Ladies and gentlemen, Alyssa Morale.
Good evening. My name is Alyssa Morale. Like Mr. Merrill said, I will be going to the University of Toledo to major in biochemistry. I would like to start by saying how honored I am to be here with all these brilliant students, many of whom I have practically grown up with. It has been a pleasure to celebrate our successes together, and I am proud of what we all have accomplished. So to my classmates, peers, and friends, thank you so much for working alongside me these past 4 years. Thank you also to my family. I am joined by my mom and dad and sister. I would not have been able to achieve everything I have so far if it wasn't for your constant support and encouragement. Thank you as well to all administrators, staff, and of course, teachers. I have had some fantastic teachers throughout my time in the Brunswick School District, and they are ultimately who we are recognizing tonight. Mrs. Foster, I can't believe it's been 9 years since I was first introduced to you, and 8 since I was in your class. Although I may have forgotten exactly what I learned on a day-to-day basis in 4th grade, I have never forgotten the impact you had on me. You made sure your class was fun, engaging, and nurturing, and I know I was never uncomfortable when you were around. A few highlights from my time with you are the Mrs. Foster dance, our class calling you Mom at least a couple of times, and your famous phrase that you sound like a broken record. Even now, it has been such an amazing opportunity to return to Huntington through AP and we to see you again. And while the school seems different now that I'm older, you have not changed. You always have the biggest smile on your face, always seem to be laughing, and you are still one of the most welcoming, caring, and encouraging people I have ever met. When visiting Huntington, I have also been able to see Mrs. Clark again. Mrs. Clark, I had the immense privilege to be under your instruction throughout both elementary school and middle school, with you mostly teaching me how to do math properly. I know for a fact that I would not have been able to progress through advanced math classes without the stable foundation you provided for me. I truly credit any success I have had in high school math to what I learned from you and how to take good notes. But the main things I learned from you were to be patient, to help others, and to never accept our limitations. I know I said it before, but I really have had some phenomenal teachers, especially in high school. The one who stands out is Mr. Belkoffer. While I did not take AP US History, I did take Mr. Belkoffer's CCP History and Government classes. These subjects were ones that I normally found boring or was unable to see how they applied to life and society in general. But Mr. Belkoffer, with you pacing back and forth in front of your classroom, all excited about Lincoln or some treaty or the Supreme Court, I couldn't help but pick up on that contagious enthusiasm and look at those concepts in a different way. It was and is your passion for the subjects you teach and for your students that made stale history come to life for 50 minutes a day. In reality, though, I hid in your room for more than just one period every day. When I had chaotic study halls and couldn't find anyone to sit with at lunch, you opened your room to me. Although I sat at a table in the back, not doing much besides my homework, your room became an unexpected safe place for me when I needed it. Even though I unfortunately was not in any of your classes senior year, you still helped me out with applications, put up with my late notice emails, and you still wave every time you see me. When I see you and wave back, I can't help but be proud that I had you as a teacher, and grateful that you care so much about individual students like me. Thank you for being that person for me. I'm so grateful for you and Mrs. Foster and Mrs. Clark. You three have really influenced my development as a student and as an individual, and I'm incredibly thankful for the privilege not only to have been in your classes, but also to be able to tell you how much you mean to me. Thank you.
Please welcome Raina Nemchek. Raina is an NHS student, National AP Scholar, and is a part of the zoo crew. I just like the wording of it, so I had to include that in there. Volunteer, and an NIAA Scholar athlete. She will be heading to the University of the South at Sewanee University. From Memorial Elementary School, she would like to recognize Katie Gallagher. From Visintainer Middle School, she would like to recognize Christina Wolf. And from Brunswick High School, Mr. Andrew Zenchak. Ladies and gentlemen, Raina Nemchek.
Hello. So I will be attending the University of the South in Tennessee, where I will be majoring in integrative biology. I would like to say a special thank you to my parents and brother for driving all the way up from Florida to be here tonight. I truly would not be the person that I am today without their encouragement and support. The summer before my senior year, I almost moved with my family to Florida to finish up my high school in a new state. However, I wanted to stay in Brunswick, even though it meant being away from my family. And my parents supported my decision, as I couldn't possibly imagine graduating from any other school. This is mostly because of the strong connections I made with my teachers from the time I was in elementary school until now. I attended Memorial Elementary School and absolutely loved every moment of being a Mustang. When I look back on my elementary years, I am just filled with so much joy because I loved every single year and all of my teachers. However, there was one teacher who truly made me feel so safe and special in her classroom, and that was my first grade teacher, Mrs. Gallagher. There is one specific memory that I have of her class that still makes me smile, and that was the day where I almost flipped my card. In our lunchroom, we had a traffic light that went red if it got too noisy. Once red, the entire lunchroom had to be silent until it turned green again. One day, when it went red, my friends and I decided to do fake sign language as a way to still talk during the silent time. However, one of the lunch aides thought I was talking, moved me to the middle table, and said that I had to flip my card when I got back to class. Now, being the sensitive goody two-shoes that I was, I cried for the rest of lunch and felt so guilty for talking because I didn't want to get in trouble or disappoint my teacher. When I got back to the classroom, I cried to Mrs. Gallagher as I had to explain why I got moved during lunch. But instead of flipping my card, she pulled me out into the hallway, gave me a hug, and told me that I wasn't in trouble. I can't tell you how relieved I was or how much that hug meant to me. Now, this was just one simple moment in first grade, but Mrs. Gallagher never failed to show her kindness and love for her students. She was the type of teacher who made you look forward to going to school every day. There was never a moment where I felt like I didn't belong at school, as Mrs. Gallagher had a beautiful way of instilling confidence in her students. She made learning fun and engaging. So thank you, Mrs. Gallagher, for making school a safe and happy place and for being the reason why I first fell in love with learning. In 6th grade at Zenchak Middle School, I was lucky enough to have been placed into Mrs. Wolf's science class. As everyone knows, middle school can be tough as you try to fit in and form new friendships. Let's face it, at that age, your social life means so much more than your academic one. However, Miss Wolf found a way to make learning exciting. She made her class fun with her contagious laugh and enthusiasm to teach. She loved science and wanted every student in her class to love science too. When it came to the shark and squid dissections, everyone was prepared for them to be gross. However, the energy and excitement for Mrs. Wolf transformed that project into one of my favorite memories of 6th grade, as this was the first time I ever got to dissect an animal, and to me that was fascinating. Miss Wolf made me want to learn more, and she was one of the first teachers whose own love of science sparked my passion to study medicine. She helped guide me during a time where I was just starting to find my identity and helped me realize that science was something that I wanted to pursue. So thank you, Mrs. Wolf, for inspiring me with your passion for science and for making 6th grade a year I will never forget. I can easily say that Mr. Zenchak is one of the best all-around teachers I have ever had. I feel so honored to have been a student in both of his Project Lead the Way classes for my last years at Brunswick, as he helped solidify my passion for medicine with his positive energy. Energy that he probably gets from his Pepsi addiction. The best way I can describe Mr. Z is that he cares about his students and has a zealous love of learning. Everyone knows Mr. Z because he goes out of his way to say hi to everyone, even students who aren't in his class. He loves his job and it really shows. It's why I look forward to his class every day. Mr. Z is always so optimistic and excited to learn new things right along with his students. He inspires us to think outside of the box. When you ask a question, Mr. Z usually answers with another question, but not in an annoying way. His excitement for us to learn more encourages all of his students to become independent thinkers. Project Lead the Way was my last period for both years, and I left every school day in a better mood because of his class. Yes, that includes the days where he would make us copy his super long Mr. Z notes. There was never a class period where Mr. Z wasn't in a good mood, eager to tackle the day's lesson. Mr. Z goes above and beyond to help his students excel both in and out of the classroom, and he is a teacher who I know I can always turn to for advice. He always asked me how my day was going, and I know he genuinely cared about my response. Mr. Zenchak took time not to write 1, but 2 letters of recommendations for me, which helped me get into my dream school and win a national scholarship. At Sewanee, where I'll be attending this fall, I applied to the Hippocrates Fellowship of Medicine, and one of the questions asked why I wanted to study pre-medicine. I can honestly say that Mr. Z was a huge part of my answer to that question. So thank you, Mr. Zenchak, for not just being my teacher, but for also being a friend and role model. I can confidently say that I would not be as excited and passionate about my future without having you as my teacher. Thank you.
Nice job, thank you. Chase has participated in the All-State Band as an All-State Band member, Cool Tech Challenge, earned a superior rating for solo ensemble and ensemble performances. He will also be attending The Ohio State University in the fall. From Kidder Elementary School, he would like to recognize Kathy Pfeffer-Gregory. From Zenchak Middle School, Brian Bennett, and from Brunswick High School, Mrs. Alicia Chamberlain. Ladies and gentlemen, Chase Oberg.
Hi. Okay. Microphone. Got it. So, to begin, I first would like to say a special thank you to my mom, Jennifer Oberg, and my brother, Epen Oberg, and my aunt, Pam. All 3 of them came here tonight to support me and have supported me in numerous ways throughout my high school and my life. So, I'm Chase Elberg. I'm going to OSU. I'm studying computer science. And, well, I should say, this night, though, is not one, though, meant to recognize me. Rather, it's meant to recognize the people that have not only helped myself, but all of us in achieving this accomplishment. These teachers are three that may have made the most impact in my life, but they are also teachers that have impacted numerous students throughout their time here. So before I explain why each one of you meant so much to me, I would like to say thank you for helping all of us in our journey. Each of you put so much time and effort into giving us students a meaningful experience and education. And without you, I would not be standing here today. So thank you. The first teacher I would like to thank and recognize is Mrs. Peffer Gregory, or as I knew you, Mrs. Peffer, who was my second grade teacher, science club advisor throughout elementary school, and my 400-meter coach for 7th grade. You taught me the value of curiosity, as well as sparked in me the drive to have independence in my education, constantly seeking a deeper understanding in the material I'd be taught in middle school and high school. Most elementary teachers you tend to forget or move past, only vaguely remembering their names years later, but I never forgot your class and club. Science club was one of my favorite things about elementary school, since I would have the chance to learn beyond the curriculum I was being taught. I still remember the trip we got to go on in 5th grade to a park and then to Wink and Lizards for being part of science club for so long. And then when I got to work with you again in middle school, despite other activities, aka music, pulling me away from running, you taught me to love the sport. I still to this day, for fun, will run, and it's my preferred physical activity, despite how many of my friends absolutely detest the idea. It is because of these passions you taught me that I am who I am today. So, Mrs. Peffer Gregory, thank you for being my teacher. The second teacher I would like to recognize would be Mr. Bennett, my percussion instructor throughout my time in high school and middle school. Mr. Bennett, you have taught me everything I know about rhythm and music, as well as have broadened my horizons about other cultures. Through the love of music you taught me to have, I got to experience things like a percussion camp over the summer at BGSU and a trip to London to perform for the Queen. Not only that, you taught me enough that I was able to be both selected and perform with the Ohio All-State Band in my junior year. I have never had something that was more of a rock for me in times that got tough and a passion for me to pursue than the music you taught me to create. When everything else would feel like it was overwhelming me, your lessons would give me something to constantly strive for and prepare for. And my favorite organization in music wasn't the wind ensemble or the marching band, but rather your percussion ensemble program. It challenged me and humbled me. It allowed me to help those who were less experienced and realize just how much experience I still had left to gain. You taught me that I will not always be able to handle things initially, but if I work hard enough, eventually any obstacle would be surpassable. Thus, I would like to thank you for being an amazing mentor for me and helping shape me into who I am today. So, Mr. Bennett, thank you. The final teacher I would like to thank is Mrs. Chamberlain, my game design teacher, as well as coding club advisor. There is no denying that you have made an impact on my life, considering the path I ended up deciding in the end. Your class taught me not only to think about programming, the programming side of software game development, but instead look at the application of what I am making. Initially, I thought the class would just be a programming class, yet I quickly realized you were going to teach us why we play games and how to make them enjoyable, when one of the first questions you posed to us was, what do all games have in common? Here I was, a kid who played video games all my life, and I couldn't come up with the commonality between them. It ended up being that all games have rules, and from that point on, I was hooked with your class. However, outside of your class, I continued to learn from you through Coding Club. You gave me the opportunity as well as a reason to pursue programming on my own time. Although I did end up taking a break from coding my sophomore and junior year, again due to ban, I still always wanted to come back. And even with all the chaos of Corona, you still provided me opportunities this year for me to practice coding through a Coding Capture the Flag challenge. But beyond what you taught me about programming, you gave me a lesson that changed how I view high school. You reminded me that grades don't define who you are. Your dedication to class is what does. Most kids go through high school and college continuously stressed about how they will perform on the next test. But due to you, I realized that instead of looking at tests as this thing to stress out about, you should look at tests as benchmarks for how well I learned this past chapter. It is for these reasons that I would like to thank you for being my teacher. So, Mrs. Chamberlain, thank you. All three of you have made a significant impact on my life in ways no one could have imagined. I am who I am today due to the dedication you have shown me as well as countless other students. I hope that when you look back at our time together, you will remember that what you did to change my life. So each of you, once more, I thank you.
All right, please welcome up next Dana Amy. Dana's involved is the NHS secretary, Link commissioner, involved in choir, and is a theater thespian. In the fall, she will be heading to Purdue University. She would like to recognize Miss Debbie Kreider from Applewood, from Visitator Middle School, Adam Albright, and from Brunswick High School, Mr. Mike Sponseller. Ladies and gentlemen, Dana Amy.
Hi everyone, I'm Dana Amy, and as he said, I will be going to Purdue University to do biomedical engineering. So first off, I'd like to thank my mom and my dad for being the backbone of why I'm here today. I'd like to thank you guys for dealing with my sass and always putting up with my attitude and pushing me to do my best and supporting me through my academic career. Without you guys, I wouldn't be standing here today. Additionally, I'd like to thank all the staff, administrators, and teachers who have guided me throughout my years here in the Brunswick City School District. You all have built me to be a successful, hardworking student that I am each and every day. So, first and foremost, I would like to recognize my second grade teacher, Miss Kreider. So now some might say it would be hard to write something like this about a teacher you had so long ago, but not me. Miss Kreider went far beyond the expectations anyone would have of a textbook definition of a teacher. Even as a little tiny second grader at Applewood Elementary School, I knew Miss Kreider was an important person in my life and always would be. From learning cursive, to listening to brain pop videos, to reading the book series, A Series of Unfortunate Events after recess every single day, there was never a dull moment. She pushed me to challenge myself and my peers. This trait would truly carry over into my following school years and academic life. Up until this point, I had not really understood what it meant to challenge myself or overcome these challenges with the help of some critical thinking until I met Miss Kreider. Miss Kreider was not only a teacher, but a friend. She was a role model who taught us to be kind, compassionate people despite only being 7 and 8 years old. I don't know how, but Miss Kreider even dealt with the drama of second grade in a way that showed us how to deal with the real world. I'd like to thank all the kids who walked out of her door at the end of the year, embraced the laughs, jokes, and memories made in that classroom, because I know I did. After attending Applewood, I went to Visintainer Middle School. At VMS, I found my love of music. I believe anyone can teach music because, to some extent, music is technically just notes, rhythms, and pitches. However, not everyone can teach music in a way that exhibits such empathy, passion, emotion, and connection to others, quite like Mr. Albright. In 6th grade, I walked into Mr. Albright's room terrified, with absolutely no musical background except some music classes from elementary school. Quite frankly, I had no idea what I was doing at all. I had no idea how to read music, how to match pitch, or most importantly, connect with music. Little did I know, Mr. Albright would not only teach me how to do these things, but use them to create music that undeniably led me down a path full of music and choir for my future. Mr. Albright had confidence in his students. He had confidence that his students were good enough, his students were capable of greatness, and his students were successful. He created an atmosphere in his classroom that was unlike any other, and I mean that in a good way, of course. He let us joke around and have fun while simultaneously going in depth to the text of the music or sharing personal experiences like Shine On Me that undeniably made half the class cry each year. Mr. Albright's love for music shows through his students like myself. His love for music truly made me love music, which transferred me to my high school career and choirs like Mads and Mixed, and will continue to do so for the rest of my life. I hope to one day share the love and passion for music that Mr. Albright shared with me to others. After my time at Viz with Mr. Albright, I entered Brunswick High School. If you haven't really walked through Brunswick High School, you know that it's ginormous. At some points here at BHS, it's undoubtedly true that you will feel lost. I still get lost here, and I've been here for 4 years. The point is, you'll feel lost, whether this be mentally, emotionally, or like literally lost. I've spent my time in many classrooms with many different teachers with varying content to teach. However, the teacher who has had the biggest impact on me was Mr. Sponseller. Mr. Sponseller's class made me feel a little less lost in the vastness of BHS. Now, if you would have asked me this the first 2 weeks of AP Biology, the answer would have been completely different. The first AP Bio quiz I ever took in Mr. Sponseller's room, I received a 7 out of 12 on my first quiz. That is indeed a 58%. To say the least, I was not thrilled about my 58% in AP Bio. However, with Mr. Sponseller's help and his occasional weird analogies, I began to understand. I began to understand not only the content at hand, but more. In his class, I was able to ask the questions that went outside the curriculum requirements. It may make me a nerd, but I was able to ask the questions that only intrigued me more about the curiosities of biology. These weird questions and curiosities that Mr. Sponseller so patiently answered truly swayed me towards the career path I've chosen for myself. Most importantly, Mr. Sponseller cares about his students. As previously mentioned, I asked a lot of questions in his class that would probably annoy him and my fellow classmates. He still somehow listened and answered each question to the best of his ability. Even during the pandemic, Mr. Sponseller answered each and every one of my questions I emailed him. Something I'll never forget is when I was frantically emailing him the night before the AP exam, asking for the command verbs worksheet. He emailed me saying, "When the stresses of the AP exams begin to creep up on you, don't forget, you are here." So I know you probably all won't be able to see this picture, but it's a picture of a little galaxy, and it has a star, and it points saying, "You are here." So it was a picture with basically a little tiny star in the big galaxy, which might seem really scary for some people, but he knew that it made sense, and it just calmed me down. The next morning, I hung this picture in front of my desk, where it still remains, to calm me down, where I ended up achieving a 5 on my AP test, thanks to Mr. Sponseller. To be quite honest, Mr. Sponseller had more faith in me than I did myself. But with Mr. Sponseller's impact on my life was huge. My love for biology and science will continue on throughout my life, thanks to his class. I'd like to thank you three for always being there for me and impacting my life all the time.
Please welcome Leah Palechka. Leah is involved in NHS, Link, choir, and theater. She will be attending The Ohio State University in the fall. From Talsey Elementary School, she would like to recognize Eileen Jesse, Willits Middle School, Michelle Wank, and from Brunswick High School, Ms. Kelly Spears. Ladies and gentlemen, Leah Pellechka. Nice and loud for that.
Hi, my name is Leah Pellechka, and I'm going to be going to Ohio State University, and I'm majoring in Environment, Economy, Development, and Sustainability. Before I start, I'd like to thank my family, my mom, Lisa Pellechka, who is here, for raising me, always pushing me to do my best, and through it all, being the bravest woman I know. And I'd also like to thank my grandma, who's not here right now, but I'd like to thank Barbara Lash for being one of my best friends, despite the age gap, and just helping me be the person I am today. So first, I'd like to thank Mrs. Jessie. Kindergarten is an important part of everyone's childhood. It is a foundation into the school system and helps to form who you are from early on. Unlike my little brother, who would cry and scream when he had to go to school, I love school. I loved learning and being with the other kids, and I loved story time on the carpet and drawing pictures and macaroni projects, and I just loved all that stuff. I think one of the most important things that you can get growing up is kindness. Nothing is more comforting than a warm smile and some kind words, especially when you're little and don't understand the world. 13 years later, I remember that Miss Jessie was full of kindness. She was always so warm and comforting, and every day I felt welcome. I think that having Mrs. Jessie was a great start to my school years and really set me up to want to have fun and be interested in school. She had a huge impact on my elementary school experience, and I still think about my kindergarten years to this day. I want to recognize Mrs. Jessie and thank her for helping shape my elementary years and for giving me good memories to remember. Thank you. And I'd like to move on to Mrs. Wonk, who I had for choir in middle school. I only did choir in 6th grade because I had to. I thought, well, this is kind of okay, I guess, so I decided to do it again in 7th grade. This year, we got a new teacher, and that was my first year I went to a contest, and I thought it was pretty good, but I still didn't love it. Then I heard that we were going to have another teacher in 8th grade. That would give me 3 different choir teachers in my 3 years of middle school choir. So I would have a different teacher for every single year of choir, and I was sort of discouraged because of this, and just wanted to feel some consistency at that point. I was actually considering dropping choir because with my previous teachers, I didn't really enjoy it that much. I'm glad that I stuck with it, though, because next year I had Mrs. Wonk. This wasn't the first time I had her, though. She was my teacher when I played clarinet in 5th grade, which I was awful at, and I was relieved that it was somebody that I already knew. She was always so kind to me and brought a great atmosphere to the classroom. That year of choir with her was the best year I ever had in choir at that point, and it was the foundation for my love of singing. She introduced me to so much music and put life into singing for me. She is the reason I have come as far as I have in the choir department, and the reason that I am still singing to this day. So I want to say thank you, Miss Wonk, for making music come alive for me and being such a great teacher. Next, I want to move on to my experience at Brunswick High School with Mrs. Spears. I don't hate math, but I also don't like it. I guess I sort of have a love-hate relationship with math. I was always good at it, but that didn't mean I necessarily liked it. I guess it just depended on the year, and it was kind of off and on. One year I'd hate it, and then another year I'd love it, and then I'd hate it again, and then I'd love it. However, the one discrepancy was when I liked it for 2 years in a row. And that was my sophomore year and my junior year. The one thing that these 2 years had in common was that Mrs. Spears was teaching my math class. I didn't know what it was, but I loved the way that she taught and the way that I was able to learn. I understood and I absorbed and I thought about math. I didn't hate it for 2 whole years. And I guess that was pretty incredible, since by general consensus, math doesn't seem to be a very popular subject. I didn't expect to like math for that long, but I did. I liked going to her class every day and feeling comfortable while learning math. She made it comfortable. If you got an A on your test, she would give you a sticker. And I love those stickers, and I would put them on all my folders and my notebooks. And one time, I put the birthday sticker she gave me on my belt buckle, and I wore it every day. Or the whole day, I walked through school with the sticker on my belt buckle. I especially liked the scented stickers, and I bet I still have some on my old math folders. And I think the thing that I was always the most excited for was all the time that year was to get one of those stickers from an A on a test. And of course, to go to Mrs. Spears' math class. I want to thank Mrs. Spears for helping me like math and for being one of the best teachers that I have ever had. And also for all the stickers, so thank you. And I want every single teacher at Brunswick High School, at Willis Middle School, and Townsville Elementary School was so impactful to me, but I want to thank specifically these 3 because they really helped me in my life. Thank you.
You can head out there, but then the picture. Please welcome Cole Peretti. Cole is captain of the soccer team, link commissioner, and holds several soccer records at BHS, and has been named GCC Player of the Year. Cole is going to be heading toward Washington, D.C. to Georgetown University. He would like to recognize Jamie Burke from Towsley, Leah Solanea from Edwards Middle School, and from Brunswick High School, Joe Makery. Ladies and gentlemen, Cole Peretti.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I first want to thank my parents. Without all your love and support over these last few years, I would not be standing here today. Every day you show me that with passion and determination, I am able to achieve my wildest goals. You and the teachers next to me have pushed me throughout the years to be the best person I can be, and you have all guided me here tonight. I want to thank you and all the teachers here tonight, and more specifically the ones on the stage. Without your help, I would not be in the position I am today. You have all taught me countless lessons that I can carry on to my college and future career. Ms. Burke, I felt instantly at home in your classroom. You have always been kind to all and were always there for all your students. I remember that there were a couple days in kindergarten where I would stay inside from recess and do accelerated math problems with you. I loved recess, but I loved doing math problems more with you. We would work on equations and multiplication from what we had learned in class. Looking back, I loved recess. Oh, sorry, I've said that, but teaching made me constantly strive to want more and excel in your classroom. You showed me how to become engrossed in my learning and how to be compassionate. Miss Solo, you have taught me 2 years in math. Sorry, I'm not the best with words. And that I was in the first grade and sixth grade math with you. I forgot how sad it was that I would only have you as that substitute teacher. But I'll never forget how happy I was that I heard you were going to come back to 7th grade, and I have you for 7th grade. You always make class interesting, even though Tommy and I would goof around occasionally and you would yell at us. You always push me to do my best in your class. You're always kind, especially even when Tommy Brandon, who's here tonight, and I would just goof off all the time. However, you taught me to always have positive outlook on things. Although you also taught me by communicating and working together with peers, I will be able to achieve and discover countless things. Mr. Makery, I do not think I've had even as difficult as a class as AP Classroom and AP Chemistry in my whole school career. Your class may have been difficult, but it taught me more than I could imagine. Not just about chemistry, but about life in general. In your class, I faced many challenges, but through adversity, I was able to learn and adapt. I remember the first test I took in AP Chemistry, I failed. I got a 55%. It's not a good day. As a relatively good student, I was never used to this. This test was the first of many examples from your class that opened my eyes to the challenges that I'd be facing in my near future. It also taught me the importance of partial credit. You taught me that through hard work, determination, and time management, that I will be prepared for no matter what is thrown at me. Thank you all three for all you have done thus far in my life, and thank you for preparing me for the future. I do not want to just thank the three of you, but every past teacher that I've ever had. All of you and all the teachers in presence today. All you have taught me and my peers countless lessons and shaped us into who we are. Thank you.
Please welcome Jay Patel. Jay is involved in track and field, yearbook, link, and has been summa cum laude for 4 years. He will be heading to Miami University. He would like to recognize Mrs. Karen McCune from Byzantiner Middle School and Ms. Delia Velez from Brunswick High School. Ladies and gentlemen, Jay Patel. Sorry.
Hi everyone, my name is Jay Patel and I'm going to Miami University to study biochemistry. Oh, sorry. And first of all, I would like to thank my family, especially my mom, for being able to make it out tonight and support me in my academic journey towards the future. Now, reflecting back on the kid I was always moving around and never quite found a home till I moved here in 2017. You never quite get used to changing or switching schools, and as the introverted kid this was a new challenge. Walking into Byzantiner Middle School for the first time, I was overwhelmed, needless to say. I had new classes to find, new people to meet, and most importantly, new friends to hang out with. With all this new I had in my life, I had almost searched for some tie to the old. This came in Mrs. McCune's social studies class second period. On the first day of class, she had a slideshow with fun facts about her, and one of them happened to be of her family. I double-taked and made sure I was seeing right because I saw my 5th grade math teacher, Mrs. Wagner, on the board. Small world, right? Mrs. McCune ended up being that old tie that I looked for, and I had gone up to her after class letting her know, and she was ecstatic. She had later asked Miss Wagner how I was as a student, and the next day told me that she had heard nothing but good news and was excited to teach me. Being new to the district, this ended up being very important to me that someone had an idea of who I was. Moving on with that year, Mrs. McCune had been a great teacher, sparking my interest leading up to the 8th grade Washington, D.C. trip, where she had been an advisor to my bus. I also want to thank you for telling me after my presentation that I pronounced FDR's middle name wrong the entire time. Progressing towards high school, I had shared some of the same struggles with figuring out who I am as a person. From this moment on, there had been a sudden change in responsibility. I had 4 years to build up a resume, not only for colleges or for work, but a resume for who I was. Freshman year had gone by in a blur, and before I knew it, I was sitting in the pack waiting for my row to be called up to receive our awards. Then sophomore year came. Many may recollect about high school and say one year was harder than the others. This for me was sophomore year. Not for the classes I had taken or from the stress of knowing I was halfway done, but for the struggles I had outside of school. During this time, I had patiently waited for the cloudy skies to clear up and eventually the sun had come out. A part of this new brightness was the comfort I had found in Miss Velez's Spanish 2 class. Immediately what I had noticed walking into her class was that her teaching style was not of lecturing, but nurturing through activities and personal relations. Miss Velez's class truly felt like I was walking into my living room at home. From the time she had gone out of her way to try to find my wallet that I had lost on the bus that one morning, to the countless times she had given me advice, I knew I was truly cared about. Miss Velez not only went above and beyond teaching her students, but made sure that her room was always a safe environment. If anyone was feeling down, she would always check on them, and if anyone's hungry, she always found a way of getting them food. She's not only a wonderful teacher, but also a wonderful person, and I know that she will always be in my corner. With that being said, I truly cannot thank you enough for helping me develop into the person I am today and caring for me. I know everyone says that these 4 years go by in a flash, and as much as I've tried to stop this from happening, I cannot stop from thinking that these last few months have been a fast forward. From the countless memories I've made, relationships, and lifelong friendships, I cannot be more appreciative of this district for providing me with everything it's got. Thank you to everyone who has been with me on this journey and those who will continue to be.
Please welcome Ellie Radabal. Ellie is an NHS honors student, involved in NHS, an honors thespian, is involved in mixed, symphonic, and show choir, junior leadership, and is a volunteer for the Special Olympics. Ellie is going to be heading to Bowling Green State University. She would like to recognize from Towsley Elementary School, Tom Lindy, Willits Middle School, Jeff Grove, and from Brunswick High School, Mama Rags, Michelle Raglow. Ladies and gentlemen, Ellie Radabal. Project, I know you will.
I'll try. Hi, everybody. I am smiling so big right now because I have been waiting for this since I was in elementary school. So before I begin, I would like to give a huge shout out to my incredible family for being here. If you have ever met me, you would know that I have the most supportive family in the universe. I have my mom, my dad, and all of my grandparents here tonight. I would like to specifically thank the amazing women in my family. My mom, Tracy Radabal, a special education teacher, my Grammy, Linda Radabal, a retired first grade teacher, and my grandma, Jill Arnold, a retired fourth grade teacher. I was lucky enough to go to Towsley where both my Grammy and grandma taught. When I was in preschool and kindergarten, my grandmothers would let me come into school with them. I used to sit at my Grammy and grandma's desk and pretend to grade papers like they would. When I was in late elementary school, I stopped pretending to grade papers and began actually grading them when I would go to my grandmother's classes and help during my free periods. Many times I would sit back in awe of my grandmothers when they got in the zone while teaching. I remember watching the students cling to every word my Grammy and grandma said. They were both full of life and energy, but at the same time extremely caring and had a special relationship with each of their students. I wanted to be just like them. My mom is a special education teacher. Oh, I'm gonna get emotional. She sees the potential in every single student. My mom is the fiercest advocate I have ever met, and I hope to be even half of the amazing teacher she is. Mwah, I love you. I am going to be an educator. I want to be an educator not just because of my amazing family of teachers, but because of these incredible 3 teachers standing right here who, oh my gosh, I'm being emotional, who came to school every single day with dedication, passion, and kindness. Okay, here we go. Thank you, Mr. Merrill. Before 4th grade, I hated math. I was stuck in the mindset that I wasn't good at it, and no matter how hard I tried, I continued to struggle. On the first day of 4th grade, I met Mr. Lindy, who was wearing a bright yellow suit that we all called his banana suit. Mr. Lindy changed the way I combated struggles in my learning. When I was this age, I would get very angry and frustrated when I couldn't grasp a topic or concept. Mr. Lindy helped me realize that just because something is hard doesn't mean it's impossible. He helped us through hard concepts by making learning fun. I will never forget the day when Mr. Lindy came up to me and said, "Our class is gonna make a music video on long division, and do you want to have," oh my gosh, he said, "Our class is gonna make a music video on long division. Do you wanna have a special part?" And I was ecstatic. I played the part of the teacher in this music video that is still on YouTube, by the way. I made a mustache out of duct tape, I wore my dad's suit jacket, and a hat that was way too big on my head. I believe that Mr. Lindy is a big reason as to why I am where I am. In elementary school, I struggled with math. This year, I took AP Statistics and had an A each quarter. Mr. Lindy made it a priority that each and every one of his students felt valued in his class. Each and every student had a special nickname from him. Mine was Elephant. Even though it's such a small detail, it made me feel like I was important and special. Mr. Lindy, thank you for making each day of 4th grade an adventure and for showing me that I can do anything I put my mind to. Mr. Grove. When I was younger, I didn't understand why we needed to learn history. In normal middle school fashion, I thought it was boring, and I didn't understand why we needed to learn about things like ancient Greece or the Protestant Reformation. Then I walked into Mr. Grove's classroom, and everything changed. He showed me that history isn't just lectures about old people. It's stories about perseverance and success, failure and strife, and how each new generation has built upon the tracks left by those who came before. At first, I was terrified of Mr. Grove. I thought his deep voice was scary and his constant sarcasm was intimidating. Then one day, we were learning about how Constantinople turned into Istanbul. Mr. Grove played the song Istanbul, Constantinople by They Might Be Giants over the smartboard, and I started dancing in my seat. In his scary teacher voice, he said, "Mrs. Radaball, would you like to do that dance for the class?" And I did. From then on, Grove and I were buddies. Throughout the course of my time in his class, I became more and more fascinated with world history. I became more and more fascinated with world history. I had collected enough pride cards to sit in the teacher's seat for a day. I went to Mr. Grove and I asked if I could sit in his chair. He, of course, responded with, "Well, Miss Radaball, the only way you could sit in my chair is if you teach my class." So I went home that Friday and spent all weekend creating a lesson plan and a PowerPoint about weird jobs of the Middle Ages. And that Monday, I taught the class. Mr. Grove moved around his whole week so that I could teach his class. He gave me my first experience of actually teaching. He let me teach his class a few times that year. Little known fact, me and 2 other students had a band in Mr. Grove's class called Sunshine Road. If we were staying on task, Mr. Grove would reward our band by letting us go in the hallway and write a short 1-minute song about what we were learning in class. I never saw this as learning. I just saw it as fun, but I learned so much from it. Mr. Grove, you taught me what it means to put your students first. You showed me how to make learning fun and engage with students on a deeper level. Thank you for seeing my potential and giving a weird middle schooler the chance to dance, sing, and teach in your classroom. Mama Rags. Oof. When I think of teachers who have impacted, I can't look at you. When I think of teachers who have impacted my life, the first name that immediately comes to my mind is the amazing Mama Rags. It's hard to put into words just how incredible Mrs. Raglow is as a teacher, a person, a mentor, and a school mom. We all call her Mama Rags for a reason. From the moment you meet her, Mrs. Raglow makes it a priority, oh my goodness, makes it a priority to make sure you are loved, valued, and cherished in her classroom. She cares for all of her students as if they were her own children.
I think one of the things that makes Mrs. Raglow so special is the community she creates in her classroom. My junior year, I had her for AP Language Arts, and this year I took senior seminar with Rags and Mr. Belkoffer, one of my other favorite teachers of all time. In both of these classes, we engaged in hard conversations that many teachers would feel uncomfortable having their students discuss. Not Mama Rags. Mrs. Raglow created an environment where hard conversations were cherished and nurtured, not restricted and censored. Through having these types of conversations, I gained a deep trust with all of the students in my class. It didn't matter if I agreed with their opinions or not, we respected each other. All of this is because of Mrs. Raglow. Mama Rags has been my biggest role model in high school. She comes to class each day with so much drive. It is obvious from the way she teaches that not only is this what she was meant to do, but she loves every second of it. Mrs. Raglow, I want to be you when I grow up. I know! Whew. I want my students to feel as comfortable in my classroom as I do in yours. I want my students to come to me when they're struggling and feel I will listen with an empathetic ear just like you do for me. I want my students to come to class knowing that I'm going to put 100% of my effort into helping them succeed just like you do every single day. My short speech will never be enough to thank you for the impact you've made on my life. I love you so much, Mrs. Raglow. Thank you.
Please welcome Ashley Snyder. Ashley is in NHS, marching band, and is part of the Cleveland Youth Wind Symphony. She is also a member in the Academic Challenge. She will be heading to Walsh University in the fall. And from Kidder Elementary School, Mrs. Debbie Bedron. From Visitator Middle School, Stephen Yoke. And from Brunswick High School, Mrs. Chanel Boyer. Ladies and gentlemen, Ashley Snyder.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Snyder, as Mr. Merrill said. I'm going to be going to Walsh University and majoring in museum studies. I'd like to thank all of you for coming out tonight, and I'd also like to say a quick thank you to all of the administrators and staff who made tonight possible, as well as my parents, Lonnie and Jamie Snyder, for all their support and devotion over the past 12 years. And also my siblings, despite our differences. They are at least 30% of the reason I strive to be the student I am. Although it's been 7 years, elementary still feels like a really, really long time ago. My memories are not perfect by any means, but I have not yet forgotten Mrs. Bedron, one of the office aides at Kidder Elementary School. One trait I always admired was her capability to be positive in any situation. Her happiness was and is still very contagious, and no matter who came by her desk, Mrs. Bedron was always ready with a smile. She made kids feel special in their very own way. In fact, Mrs. Bedron is still one of my role models for how to be a kind, caring, and empathetic person. She instilled in me values that make me the friend and sister I am today, and for that I am forever grateful. I was lucky enough to have Mr. Yoke as a teacher for all 3 years of middle school, remarkably. He taught my 6th and 7th grade math classes and monitored my study hall in 8th grade. It's strange how that worked out, but I would not have it any other way. To put it frankly, Mr. Yoke had some of the most fun classes I have ever been in. He'd bring in pie or pizza for Pie Day and spend all of study hall joking with me and my friends. Beyond that, he was super helpful with my math homework, regardless of whether it was his class or not. And I knew I could count on him to make every day more enjoyable. He taught me to have fun outside of my schoolwork and to see the silver lining on every cloud, something I still cherish to this day. And I have so many stories I could tell, but I think that would take too long. And last, but certainly not least, Miss Boyer. Although I never actually had her for class, she has left quite an impact on my life. For every hard day at school or tough academic challenge competition I encountered, Miss Boyer helped me keep moving forward. On days when things were especially rough, she always made sure to check in on me before or during academic challenge practice. And I'm talking like middle of the question, she'd stop and ask me if I was okay. Knowing she cared about me and my peers' well-being made those days a little bit easier to bear. Her encouragement and advice has helped me prepare for my AP tests, exams, and even college. Her unwavering personality is the reason I have become more confident in expressing myself. Sorry. There are truly no words to describe how much I will miss her when I leave for college. And she has been an amazing coach and role model for me these past 4 years, and I will never be able to thank her enough for all the support she has given me. Tonight is about recognizing those staff members who have impacted our lives and aided us in achieving academic excellence. It is because of the entire Brunswick City School staff, and especially these 3 staff members here with me, that I am the student I am today. They have taught me how to look on the bright side, have fun, and be myself. From those lessons stem my love for history, music, and learning. Such principles will no doubt stick with me for many years to come, as will all of the wonderful memories we share. Thank you so much for everything you have done for me and for my peers. We wouldn't be here without you.
Please welcome Chloe Sperry. Chloe is a member of NHS, Link, Presidential Scholarship Award from BW, and a Sunday school teacher. Chloe is going to be going to Baldwin Wallace in the fall. From Huntington Elementary School, she would like to recognize Miss Ellen Foster. From Edwards Middle School, Jennifer Clark. And from Brunswick High School, Mrs. Melanie Lapano. Ladies and gentlemen, Chloe Sperry. Good job. Get a little closer.
As you heard, I'm going to Baldwin Wallace University, and I'm majoring in applied mathematics on the pre-law track. Before I begin, I'd like to thank my mom, dad, my granny and papa, and my sister who are here tonight, that without their constant support, love, and encouragement, I would not be where I am today. I've also been tremendously lucky with the teachers I have had all my years here in Brunswick. In 3rd grade, I switched from Hickory Ridge to Huntington to be in the gifted program. Little did I know that the many years to follow would be shaped by that decision. Mrs. Foster taught me various subjects throughout 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, specifically math, language arts, and science. We would read about news events, we worked on projects, and we learned through interactive activities together. If you didn't understand something, Mrs. Foster would take time to explain it so that you did. I always understood that Mrs. Foster is a teacher who truly loves her students. I know that she went out of the way not only to make our learning fun, but to build bonds with us and between us. I'm not a public crier, but even after I moved on to middle and high school, I knew I could and still can contact her about anything. She has always been so kind, positive, and passionate about teaching. The things I learned in her classroom, both academic and life-related, will stick with me for all my life. Before Mrs. Clark was my teacher, I was afraid of her. She was the teacher who went to the middle school and then taught 5th grade at Huntington. It took about 20 minutes of having her as my teacher to realize she's not scary at all. She's another teacher that made school so much fun, and I can remember laughing in her class until I couldn't breathe. Our quarterly reward was playing werewolves, as you heard earlier, but it was a game that brought us together as a class, and we would go on to play each year that we had her. She's a huge part of the reason my major is in mathematics, because she taught me math from 5th grade through 7th grade. She ignited my passion for math, and most importantly, she instilled a strong work ethic in me by pushing me to be the best I can. Without Mrs. Clark, I know my academic path would not be the same. The first class I ever took here in the high school was Spanish 1 with Mrs. Lapano in 8th grade. As you can imagine, I was so nervous to be here, and Mrs. Lapano was the perfect teacher to have for that. Every year before I looked at my schedule, I would hope that Mrs. Lapano would be my Spanish teacher. Luckily, I had her for Spanish 1, 3, and 4. In those 3 years, I came to know her as a strong, positive, loving woman, someone I have and will continue to look up to. Sorry. She got to know each of her students and made sure each of us had what we needed to be successful in her class. At least once a week, more often than not, it was multiple times a week. I did not think I was going to cry. We received Lapano's life lessons. Those were just lessons that came up from conversations in class, and she would give us advice that I will continue to carry on throughout my life. And you could talk about anything in her class, and she'd always be the voice of reason. She was there to support you with a smile and especially a hug if you needed it. I feel beyond blessed to have each of these amazing women as my teachers. I'll forever be grateful to them for helping me become who I am today. Each of you have prepared me for life in so many ways. I don't think I could capture in words how much and how great the impact you've put on me is.
Please welcome Ava Sorovi. Ava is the NHS president. She's part of the French club, part of AP and We, and is on the competitive dance team. She is heading to Purdue in the fall, and she would like to recognize Mrs. Pamela Knox from Huntington Elementary School, Mrs. Erin Vanek from Edwards Middle School, and from Brunswick High School, Joe Makery. Ladies and gentlemen, Ava Sorovi. You're welcome. Project a little bit.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ava Sorovi, and I will be going to Purdue for chemical engineering. I just wanted to say that I am so honored to be here tonight, and I wanted to say a special thank you to my family, friends, teachers, coaches, and all the people who have supported me and helped me get where I am today. I especially wanted to congratulate my parents who have instilled this love of learning within me, and my siblings who remind me never to take life too seriously. I am so grateful for all of you and the role you played in helping me to get where I am today. Mrs. Knox. Mrs. Knox was my 5th grade teacher, and while I don't really remember that much about 5th grade, I remember that you always had a story about everything. The one that stands out in particular is the one about the cashier at McDonald's who didn't know how to count change. Even though I am now absolutely terrible at mental math, that cautionary tale will always stick with me. At this point, I'm pretty sure it's been ingrained in my mind forever. I just wanted to say thank you for always believing in me. You were the teacher that put in the extra effort to give me the opportunity to do my best. You pulled me out during math and assigned extra work through the Alex program. And as much as I complained about it, because who wants to do extra math as an 11-year-old, I'm very appreciative that you went the extra mile and helped me reach my potential. You were a very strict teacher, and you expected a lot from me, but that was motivation for me to push myself. Thank you for being the first teacher that looked for ways to encourage me beyond what we were doing in class. You will always have a special place in my heart because of the impact you had on me as a 5th grade student at Huntington. Mrs. Vanek. Mrs. Vanek was my middle school teacher, and middle school was a challenging time for everybody, but I remember being especially nervous to start 6th grade. It was my first year in the Excel program, and I was scared to join a group of kids who had been together for the past 3 years of school. You were a new teacher for everyone that year, so it was a fresh start for the entire class. I was able to relate to you. You were easy to talk to, and it was the first time I felt I could really open up to a teacher. It was kind of then that I realized that my teachers cared about me as a person and not just as a student. So thank you for making learning interesting and fun with the Create a Country project, the Short Story project, and our weekly vocabulary.com quizzes. And I'll never forget walking over to the trailer first thing in the morning for 7th grade language arts. Even if that class became my hardest class and my first ever B on a report card, I had so much fun every single day. From teaching my classmates to dance, to just talking about everything going on in my life, you fostered an amazing dynamic within our class, and you really helped push each of us out of our comfort zone. I will always be thankful to have such a caring person to help me navigate through those stressful few years. Mr. Makery. I have never been more intimidated by a teacher. Going into sophomore year, I heard nothing but horror stories about chemistry, but apparently I liked it enough to sign up for AP Chem the next year. Even if I cried a lot and my hands shook every single time we did a lab, and I was more stressed in that class than I have been in my entire life, I am so grateful for the opportunity that I had to take that class. I learned so much more than chemistry. I learned how to study, how to handle stress, and how to let some things go and just do my best. So thank you for going out of your way to help me when I needed it, for calming me down when I was stressed out, and for caring about each and every single one of your students. You made me want to do well in your class and not just for the grade. You're an amazing teacher in person, and I'm so glad I got to be your student. And to all the teachers that I've had in the past 12 years of my life, thank you for helping me become the person I am today. You all played a major role in my life, and I wish that there was some way that I could express how much all of you mean to me. Someone once told me, if high school is the best 4 years of your life, then you're doing life wrong. But when I look back on these past 4 years at Brunswick High School, I know I'll have nothing but good memories. Thank you.
Administrator made quite the impact during my high school years. As the secretary of the athletic department, I've gotten to know her very well. And I can honestly say she is the most caring, thoughtful, and warm-hearted individual that I've encountered at Brunswick High School. She has stood by and encouraged me from those first few gymnastics meets to the final state tournament senior year. There was never a time that she didn't go out of her way to support my gymnastics career, and for that I will always be grateful. For this reason is why I've selected Mrs. Yako as the most influential staff member at BHS. Although this may be goodbye, don't worry, Miss Yako, you're not getting rid of me just yet. For as long as you work at BHS, every time you walk out of the athletic department, you'll see my portrait smiling back at you. And reminding you of the little gymnast that used to be here. Thank you.
Love it. Please welcome Addison Weinar. Addison is involved in Link, NHS, Yearbook, is a yearbook editor, and has also received an Optimist Award. She's also involved in cheerleading. She also will be heading to The Ohio State University in the fall, and she would like to recognize from Hickory Ridge, Aaron Carpenter, from Zenchak Middle School, Dana Delnay, and from Brunswick High School, Joe Makery. Ladies and gentlemen, Addison Weinar. Winar. Sorry. It's Winar. I knew it. So you meant that. Sorry, Mom and Dad. Winar.
It's okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Addie, and I'm going to be attending The Ohio State University to major in biology and do something in the pediatrics route. Although I did take speech class in my time here at Brunswick, believe it or not, this is actually my first time reading a speech out loud in front of actual people. I can thank COVID for that one. However, I would like to begin by thanking my parents, Candy and David Winar, my brother and sister, and my grandparents. Thank you guys for the constant support and motivation. Whether it was being a shoulder to cry on while I stress about a silly assignment or a hard test, or listening to my essays being read aloud countless times until it sounded perfect to me, you guys were always there. In addition, I would like to thank all the teachers I did not get a chance to recognize tonight. Every teacher, advisor, and staff member throughout my journey at Brunswick has positively impacted me and is the reason I am standing here today. The first teacher I would like to formally recognize is Mrs. Carpenter, my third grade math teacher. Although you taught me the basics of math that I would forever utilize, you also taught me so much more than that. During the young years of childhood is when a child is most influenced by the things around them. You were a positive influence on me that I still look up to this day. At a young age, you taught me to get involved in the things I was passionate about. You taught me character that now defines who I am. The summers I came back to help organize your classroom for the upcoming year, the days I would ask what color scarf you're wearing so we could be matching the next day. The times I would choose to stay in for recess and help you grade papers instead of going outside or collecting extra worksheets to play school at home, those memories will never be forgotten. Thank you for teaching me to constantly have determination while choosing to do what is right and what makes me happy. I will forever live by these lessons. The second teacher I would like to recognize tonight is Mrs. Delnay. Your constant positive attitude, humor, and kind heart made my 7th grade year unforgettable. You were always someone each and every one of us could depend on and confide in. Thank you for going above and beyond in assignments as you took a creative approach that allowed us to learn while making so many cherishable memories along the way. One of those memories, doing the trending dance, Hit the Quan, in front of the whole class for a project. But the projects like that were the ones that made your class an amazing environment everyone wanted to be around. Thank you for showing me all the ways learning can still be so much fun and being someone I will always look up to. The last teacher who I will be recognizing tonight is Mr. Makery. I was lucky enough to have Mr. Makery for 2 years in my 4 years at Brunswick for honors chemistry and AP chemistry. These two classes were ones that pushed me to new limits I had never reached before. If it wasn't for Mr. Makery in these two courses, I would feel much less prepared for my college career. However, he made these fears go away by correctly teaching his students the way to study, the correct way to study, and learn at a level beyond expectations. These were the first classes where learning did not come easy to me. I had to fight for the grade I wanted, and fight hard. Mr. Makery recognized this in all of his students, but that did not stop him from pushing us, because he knew we could handle it. There were many times those 2 years I questioned my future career plans after doing bad on a test or not understanding a certain concept. Mr. Makery was always there to lift me up and give me the motivation I needed to keep going. His constant pep talks of how his students are worth more than the letter grade they get on a test, the GPA they have, or the class rank they hold were the ones that mattered most. He taught me the true meaning of learning to gain knowledge instead of learning to receive a grade I was satisfied with. This will forever stick with me and has encouraged me to share his uplifting words with so many others. Thank you for always believing in me and making school and your classroom a safe place that I was able to showcase my passion for learning.
Please welcome Ryan Yannick. Ryan is involved in NHS, Ohio Math League, Cleveland Youth Orchestra, and marching band. Ryan will be attending the College of Worcester. He would like to recognize from Huntington Elementary School, John Unkefer, Edwards Middle School, Ethan Irebar, and from Brunswick High School, Mrs. Heather Klein. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Yannick. Project.
I'm taller now, haha. All right, hello everyone, good evening. Thank you all for coming and for toughing it out for these past like 2.5 hours. So I promise I'll make this quick. But I'd first like to start off and thank my parents. They've been a huge part of my school career and just my overall development, so I could not thank them enough for all they've done. And of course, my brother here as well. He's been an amazing role model for me. So I cannot thank him enough for all he's done for me. And of course, these 3 teachers have been also an amazing part of my school career, so I'd like to thank them individually. So firstly, I'd like to thank Mr. Unkefer. I had the privilege of having you in both 3rd and 4th grade. One of the most prevalent memories I have of your class, other than being the only student you've ever had to prefer standing over sitting, is hearing you say the phrase, "You're on the right track." For a while, I almost despised that phrase because I hate being wrong. But now I realize what it truly means. It's not about always being right. It's more about knowing why something is right. You taught me the importance of learning, and I could not be more grateful for that. Thank you. My next choice needs no introduction, considering he has been my band teacher for 5 out of my 8 years that I've been playing the trombone. Mr. Abar has been an essential part of my music education and has been an enormous factor in my decision to explore music as a potential career. Your weird yet relatable jokes and your constant smiling always makes my day. I enjoy band so much more because of you and your passion for music education. Making music with you is the perfect way to conclude a school day. So I thank you so much for everything you've done for me in the Brunswick Band program and for stepping up when we needed you most. And it was a pleasure serving you as the 2021 band president. Lastly, but certainly not least, my high school teacher was the most difficult to nominate. I had some amazing teachers. In all the schools I went to, I had some amazing teachers, so if I could recognize all of them, I would. But it came down to it, Mrs. Klein made the biggest impact on me. Like Mr. Unkefer, I had the privilege of having Mrs. Klein for 2 years, for honors and AP Physics. Like Mr. Aber, you always had a happy presence and you seemed to enjoy every millisecond you were teaching. Your passion for physics and learning has definitely inspired me to look at mathematics as a possible part of my future. Your teaching style is perfect for me, not too hands-off, but you give us enough where we can make connections ourselves. Although I still have no idea what mass density is. I learned an enormous amount from you, and I thank you for your persistent optimism every day. Thank you to all of you. I really appreciate your support.
Please welcome Matt Zelenka to the stage. Matt is an AP scholar. Has earned the Provost Award. He plays travel baseball with the Prospects League and volunteers at St. Ambrose. Matt will be heading off to Cleveland State University in the fall. He would like to recognize from Kidder Elementary School, Maureen Steffen, from Visintainer Middle School, Mrs. Linda Griven, one of my favorites as well, and from Brunswick High School, Mr. Joe Makery. Ladies and gentlemen, Matthew Zelenka. Check the mic. Good size? All right.
Yeah.
Great job.
I just wanted to say real quick before I got started, seeing like all my middle school and elementary school teachers like almost looking exactly the same as when I had them 8 or 9 years ago. I just thought that was awesome, being able to see them. But anyways, hi, I'm Matt. I'm gonna be attending Cleveland State University in the fall for civil engineering. And I'd like to thank my parents, Todd and Jackie Zelenka, and my brother Nate. My parents especially, putting up with all the video games and endless hours of raging on Call of Duty or just all that stuff. So, but anyways, so some of my oldest memories as a kid came from elementary school. And the elementary school I went to was Kidder, and my favorite teacher from Kidder was Mrs. Steffen. And I had her in 3rd grade. She was a great teacher because she cared about all of her students and wanted them to succeed. And I specifically remember going through math facts. That's probably one of the most memories I have of that class, taking spelling quizzes, trying to perfect spelling all of my words, and reading small packets and answering questions. My favorite part of the class was learning my math facts because I wanted to be the fastest in the class to answer them. I was always competitive with my math facts. She probably remembers just anything, I'd be like, just know them super fast. And these math facts were honestly important because they helped me lead me all the way to AP Calculus in high school. You wouldn't think that something simple as 7 times 8 equals 56 or something can lead you all the way up to calculus. It all builds, and it all started from that. So, compiled several years down the road. My next chapter of my school journey was in middle school, and the middle school I attended was Visintainer, and my favorite teacher from Viz was Mrs. Gribbin. And I'm not going to lie, I was kind of scared when I found out I had Mrs. Gribbin on my schedule in 8th grade. Some of my friends from the years above had warned me about her, that she was a tough teacher and all that, but I don't know, I loved her. So I also had this idea that Mrs. Gribbin's room was like this dungeon because it was in like the downstairs of Viz, and it's like all dark down there, and it's like in the library, by the library and all that. But I thought it was like really creepy down there, but on the very first day of school, I remember my assigned seat was in the back of the class, and I was like at a desk by myself because I think there was like an odd number of kids, and each like you had a pair who you sat with, and I was like, all right, I'm in the back by myself. I'm just gonna sit through this, like, and not get called on. But little did I know I was wrong. Mrs. Gribbin pretty much called on everybody, whether you raised your hand or not, because she wanted to keep everybody involved. So 8th grade me was wrong. I thought I could just, slip by that class. But aside from that, I really liked Mrs. Gribbin because she taught me how to actually write an essay. And we started with an introductory paragraph that introduced our 3 subtopics. We had our thesis, then we had our 3 body paragraphs where most of our evidence and quotes were, and then we closed with a conclusion paragraph. And I've used this formula for my whole year through high school and all my language arts classes, and it's got me all the ways throughout, all A's throughout, and in Tri-C. And yeah, so I also learned how to actually retain information when I was reading. I don't know if you guys are like this, but you read something and then the next second you're like, wait, what did I just read? Like, I forgot. That was me in like reading everything, like through my life. I'd read it and I'd be like, what did I just read? But so every time we had to read a chapter out of a book for homework, Mrs. Gribbin would like quiz us the next day. I remember like To Kill a Mockingbird. She would quiz us the next day. Like we'd pull out a sheet of notebook paper and she'd have like a few questions that we'd have to answer. And at first I struggled because, when I read things for school, I never like paid attention when I was reading in one ear, out the other. But after a while, I actually learned to remember what I was reading about. Got to remember a lot of information about Gem and Scout and all that, all the details. But it definitely helped me like understand. So I kept all my books from the class, To Kill a Mockingbird, Parallel Journeys, Copper Sun, you name it. And overall, Mrs. Goodwin's class was fun, and I learned a lot of useful things when it came to reading and writing. But last but not least came high school, and my favorite teacher from BHS was Mr. Makery. And I had Mr. Makery in 10th grade for honors chemistry, and he was my favorite teacher because not only did I learn a lot in his class, but the whole class as a whole had a lot of fun learning together. And it was whether we were in the lab messing around with Bunsen burners, almost lighting each other on fire, or balancing chemical equations. The class always seemed to be busy and ready to learn something new. And I remember it was like the first or second week of school. My dad, he's a big Metallica fan. I wore a Metallica shirt. It was like a Ride the Lightning shirt. And I thought it was always a cool shirt. It had the lightning coming from the letters and stuff. And he just started talking to me about Metallica. He's like, what's your favorite song from that album and stuff like that. And I don't know, I just thought that was really cool. He brought me over to his desk. He's showing me all these crazy bands and stuff. The big dude with the bass and just stuff like that. I remember there was probably a pep rally or something. I stayed back in his class, and all of a sudden just this metal music comes on, and he's just grading papers to metal music. I was like, that's cool as hell. That's awesome. But yeah. He also had a lot of cool things he liked to talk about with us, such as his long camping trips or his shooting competitions, MMA fighting, many other things. But I also could look forward to his class because I knew I was always going to learn something new. And all of the labs were different. We were actually able to apply what we learned in class to the labs and learn something from it. So all in all, I'd like to thank these 3 teachers and everyone who came out for making me who I am today.
Nice job, Matthew. I'll take that. All right, Matthew, when you get done, come back in here to get a group picture. Tonight, after the ceremony, I'm going to call all the top 30 students come down to the front here to get pictures. Parents, we encourage you to come down to take those pictures as well. Afterwards, if you want to go stroll through the East Cafeteria, all of the top 30 students for the class of 2021 are now displayed in the cabinet for the next year. So, congratulations to the class of 2021. Seniors, you are off tomorrow. You can take the day off, which is good. But on behalf of Brunswick High School, Brunswick City Schools, we look forward to your future success. We want you to know how proud we are of each and every one of you. Go out into the world, be kind, work hard, and make a difference in our world. Congratulations and have a great evening. Thank you, everybody. Top 30, come down for some pictures.